Working. Let's see, where's the counter? All right, there we go. So I'm just going to let it count down so I can just edit this right out. Okay, I'm back with my friend Jerry Brainum, my favorite researcher. Everyone who, if this is the first time you're seeing Jerry, make sure to go to appliedmetabolics.com and sign up for his newsletter. People always ask me, where do I get all this great research from? And well over 75% of it is from your newsletter. Every time I read your newsletter, it provokes thought. In fact, sometimes I get an alert for your newsletter and I go, well, I don't want to read that right now because I'll be up all night going through all this stuff. And then it makes me think. And then a lot of times it makes me think about stuff that I believe inherently. And now I have to challenge my own thoughts because I'm looking at your research going, wait a minute, I thought this was the way to go. Now I'm reading this and it's making me pause on that. But those are good things because we need nuance. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is I want to talk about Mike Mentzer. That's the main reason why I brought you on, because Mike Mentzer was such an interesting figure and you knew him personally. And I always found his training style, the heavy duty system, training to failure, one set to failure. I always found that really interesting. His take on bodybuilding and the way to maximize muscle growth. I always found that really interesting. But tying into that, I was telling you before we started recording that there's now a new trendy narrative on social media where you see a lot of top strength coaches and fitness influencer type people talking about how heavy weights and low reps is the best way to build muscle and everything else is a waste of time. So instead of doing 10 repetitions where maybe the last 2 are difficult, just do 5 where the last 3 are difficult and just do multiple sets of low repetitions. What's your take on that? Is it that simple or is there nuance to this whole thing?
There is nuance to it, but right before we started recording, you were talking about rest pause. You were mentioning how when you first used it, it seemed to be very effective and you were really into it. That basically is the whole philosophy behind changing your workout or doing exercise. You have to understand, and I've written this, people they think that, well, I have to change my workout, but no one ever really analyzes why are you changing. Let's say you're changing, like Charles Poliquin he would tell people to change their workout every freaking workout. Now, Bill Pearl was a great bodybuilder. He would 4 to 6 weeks, he'd say to change your work. But no one ever analyzed why. Does changing your workout, is it that much different on the muscles to do, instead of a standing curl, do an incline curl? Do the muscles, do they know the difference? No. What's going on, the reason why the advantage, if you want to call it that, of changing a workout or changing certain exercises is psychological. Because when you first do a new exercise or a new exercise technique like rest pause, you're going to be actually training harder because you're into it. You kind of believe it. It's almost like a semi-placebo effect. You believe it and you actually put more into it. But after a while, and this is what I was also going to say, the newest studies that have compared rest pause to traditional training, there's no difference in gains. It's the same level of gains. It's the same. It's all in the head. It's all in the head. Now, as far as this idea of only training heavy to 6 reps, here's what the research shows. The idea that lifting light weights is a waste of time. And I've written this God knows how many times. There's a ton of research about this. They've now kind of refined it so that, they were going back and forth and it's not good for older guys, blah, blah, blah. But now they've refined it. Now they know what the truth is. And the truth is as follows. If you want to lift light weights, when I'm talking light weights, I'm talking 30 to 40% of 1 rep. Now that's basically almost a warm-up weight.
Right.
But I mean, the average amount of weight that they tell people to use is 70 to 80% of 1 rep. That's where you get like a rep range of, let's say, 8 to 12, right? So you use 30 to 40%, but here's the deal. You have to do more reps. You don't stop at 10, 15, or even 20. You want to go to, let's say, 25, even up to 30. Past 30, you're kind of like, it's not going to hurt you, but it's not really doing. You want to aim for about 25 reps maximum. But here's the deal. It takes a little experimentation. You got to get a weight where, I know this sounds funny, where you're failing on, let's say, the 18th rep, you're starting to fail, and every rep after 18, 19, 20 is, you're just, I mean, you're in torture. You're not cheating, but you still but like it's freaking hurting. and by the 24th rep, you can barely move it, and then you get to 25, maybe a half rep, and you fail. You can't even lift the weight. If you train in that manner, you will get the same amount of muscle growth. I know this sounds hard to believe, as using 90% of 1 rep max. Why? Because, now this goes back to Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer, as you know, was an acolyte of Arthur Jones. He got most of his ideas from Arthur Jones. Arthur Jones used to talk about, this goes way back, you'd have to be old to remember this stuff because we're going back to the early 70s. Arthur Jones used to write, he had a Nautilus Bulletin #1 and #2. He used to write that the only way to involve all the muscle, when you work out with weights, resistance training, the object is to employ as many muscle fibers as you can, especially the type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers, because they're the fibers most amenable to growth. They have a larger motor neuron valve, but there's different reasons. But anyway, the point being, he said the only way to really involve the maximum number of muscle fibers is you have to train to total muscular failure. And Mike adopted this in his training. And as a correlation to that, when you do train to total muscular failure, you cannot do a large volume because the muscle fails. And if you try to do a large volume, you will overtrain and go right back and prevent muscle gains, right? So Arthur Jones he wasn't, I mean, the research wasn't available about that. He would not tell somebody to lift a light weight and do 25 reps to failure. But the point being that, here's the thing, somebody might say, well, Jerry, what if I just, did the 40% of 1 rep max and did 25 reps, but not to failure? You're not going to get any muscle growth.
Right.
You might get a little muscle endurance. If you really do it, if you do it pretty good, you get a muscle endurance, no muscle growth. To get muscle growth, you have to go to failure. Why? Because you got to get those. There's a thing called the Henneman's principle. Have you heard the Henneman's principle of muscle fiber recruitment? He basically, as a scientist, found out the way muscles work. It starts with the slow twitch fibers. Whenever you're lifting, as they fail, you just go get into the type 2A fibers, type 2B fibers, and then finally the type 2X fibers, which are the maximum. Those are the strength fibers. In other words, the muscle recruits as the smaller fibers fail, the larger fibers take over. And the only way to get the maximum fibers is you have to totally fatigue let's say the smaller fibers. And the way to do that is go to failure. That's the only way, especially with light weights. Now, there's a controversy. Brad Schoenfeld, a couple other researchers have pointed out that when you do high reps, and this relates to what you were just telling me also, you're working your slow twitch fiber rather than the fast twitch. The problem with that is the fast twitch fibers traditionally have been thought to be the fibers of growth. In other words, you lift heavy weights to get those type 2X fibers. That's the ones that give you that strength and the size, right? Now, so, he says that with the potential problem with doing lightweight to failure is that you're hitting mainly slow twitch. But here's what happened. It turns out they thought that slow twitch fibers had very little potential for muscle growth. Then further, this is, takes years of experiments and studies to figure this out. Now they find slow twitch fibers, as you found out, can grow. It all depends on the intensity. They can grow almost like type 2 fibers. But here's the big but. If you train let's say the lightweight to failure, you'll get muscle size equivalent to lifting heavy weight, but you will not get the strength that you get from heavy weight because that is a neuronal component. That involves motor neurons, the larger motor neurons, which are what innervate the type 2X fibers, can only be accessed by lifting heavier weight. So if a guy wants larger muscles, but he's not that, I'm not saying you're not going to get stronger with the lightweight thing. You're going to get strong, but not to the extent that you would lifting heavier weights. If
you get stronger within the context of the higher repetition. So your 15 rep max may go way up, but that doesn't mean that your 3 rep max is going to go way up. Exactly. That's definitely true. I always find that I only get good at what I actually do. So if I work on improving my 10 rep max with deadlifts, that's going to have minimal impact on improving my 1 rep max, because as you said, it's a neurological phenomenon. You have to train your nervous system. When you're doing really heavy weights and low reps, you're training your nervous system more than you are your actual muscles.
Well, the motor neuron recruitment explains why you see some guys that aren't very big, but they're ridiculously strong.
Right. Right.
Because they have much better motor, the motor neurons communicate with the brain. They innervate the muscle. They cause the muscle contraction.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a guy like Franco Colombo, who
Yeah.
was time Mr. Olympia, pound for pound, he was stronger than his much bigger buddy, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was much stronger. And Franco wasn't really a big guy. I mean, he didn't have gigantic arms like Arnold, but he had tremendous motor. He had the shorter arms, and the motor neuron recruitment was off the charts with Franco. He had tremendous motor neuron recruitment. That's what made him strong. That's a genetic thing also. But the point being that now, further carrying on what I was saying, they now know that. Now, here's an interesting thing. They found with older guys. Now, when I say older, I'm talking past 40. You could still, it's almost preferable to use the lighter weight to failure method because there's less chance of injury compared to heavier weights, right?
Right.
Interestingly, they found that if a older man does the light weight to failure, let's say 25 reps to failure, they do not have to go to complete failure, and they still get muscle gains. Why is it difficult to say? I'm not sure why, but they say you stop just short of failure. Now, you don't stop like on the 15th rep when you can do 25.
Right.
Let's say instead of doing 25, you might stop on 20, or 21. You'll still get the same benefit as if you went all the way to 25 to failure. This is for only you have to be over 40. Doesn't apply to those under 40. Now, furthermore, if you do use the traditional method that you mentioned, meaning a much heavier weight, let's say 70 to 80% of one rep max, you do not need to go to failure at all, because you automatically, just in the course, because of the motor neuron involvement, you automatically tap into the type 2 fibers. You do not need to go to failure if you're lifting heavy weights like the 6 reps, 8 reps. That you don't need to go to failure for that. But for lighter weights, absolutely. If you're interested in muscle size, if you just want to stay the same, then forget it. If you're not interested in getting super strong, then don't worry. But you can use a lightweight if you want to get much stronger. There's no way of avoiding the fact that you have to lift heavy weight. You can't avoid it. That's it.
Sense.
That's the way.
It was interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That with the high repetitions, you're basically burning out all those slow twitch fibers on the way to the fast twitch fibers. That makes a lot of sense. So maybe someone like me, for example, because I'm more slow twitch dominant, I have to obliterate all those slow twitch fibers so I can get to those repetitions where I recruit more fast twitch, rather than me going heavy weights and low reps. That doesn't give me an opportunity to crush through those slow twitch fibers because it's fast twitch from the first rep. While maybe there's a phenomenon of like my body almost needs the warm up. It's like, so if I'm doing 20 reps, going through all those slow twitch is almost a warm up, so that by the time I get to the fast twitch fibers, I'm ready to go, as opposed to trying to get to the fast twitch fibers from the get go. Basically, I need more foreplay when it comes to my training.
But see, here's the way it works. The way it works is that if you do the, let's say the like you say, you get the slow. Let's say you did the lightweight but did not go to failure. You do let's say 40% of one rep max, and you did sets of 25, but you did not go to failure. If you train that way, you're getting only slow twitch. So depending on your genetic factors and other things, you might still get some muscle growth, but it will be nowhere near as if you went to failure. Because and another thing is, another reason why you have to go to failure with the lighter weight is, as I said, the Henneman size principle. You will deplete your slow twitch fibers somewhere along the way, maybe 15 by the 15th, 16th rep. After that, you switch into the early fast twitch fibers, the type 2A fibers. Now, they're not as amenable to strength gains as the type 2X. That's why you don't get as strong. But the type 2A, this is interesting, are just as amenable to muscle size gains as the type 2X. In fact, when they've done biopsy studies of elite bodybuilders who have these freaking 22-inch arms, they found the preponderance of fast twitch fibers they have is the type 2A fibers. And the type 2A fibers in traditional training, the way to get them is 8 to 12 reps, no less than 8 reps. You know what I'm saying? In other words, that gets the type 2. So in other words, if you go to Faye with a lighter weight, you will be tapping into the type 2A fibers, and that accounts for the muscle growth. See, because the slow twitch fibers, they grow to a certain extent, but because of the smaller motor neuron and other factors, they can't grow to the same extent as the type 2 fibers. But they still grow. In fact, I found this interesting. Years ago, I read a study, which I still don't understand after all these years. It said that when women take anabolic steroids, like the female bodybuilders, the preponderance of muscle growth that's stimulated is in the type 1 fibers, not the type 2, the type 1. Now, at that time, they were saying type 2 fibers do not grow. They're endurance fibers. Remember, they called them endurance fibers, like the sprinters. They have a lot of type 1. They're slow twitch, high glycolytic, this and that. In other words, they thought that type 1 fibers meant no muscle growth. But then you got these female bodybuilders taking steroids who are clearly, I'm not saying they're as big as the men, but they sure as freak had big muscles for women. I mean, some of them actually almost were comparable to men.
Oh, yeah.
And most of that growth was type 1, they found.
That's really interesting.
But a more recent study found, they compared women powerlifters, female powerlifters to male powerlifters, and they found training at the same level of intensity, women were able to tap into the same muscle fibers as men, meaning type 1 and type 2. Maybe that only applies to powerlifters. I don't know. This study involved powerlifters, so I couldn't say. But that was the first time they showed that women can actually tap into this to the same extent as men in tapping into muscle fibers when they lift weights. That was the first study to show that. Yeah.
Now, with recovery time, do you feel, another argument I hear, and again, this is people just pulling stuff out of their ass for the most part, it's observational at best, but some will say that low repetitions are, heavy weights, low repetitions are easier to recover from than high repetitions done at an intense level. So let's say 25 reps taken to your max is going to take longer to recover from than, let's say, 5 reps taken to a max.
It all depends on the extent of muscle damage.
Yeah.
I think training to failure in any style, whether it's the light weights or heavier weights, and this is what Mike Mentzer believed, and Arthur Jones too, is going to tap into what they used to call recovery ability. That was the expression they used. In other words, it takes more recovery time. Towards the end, when Mike was training people, he was, I remember when he first told me this, I couldn't believe my ear. He was having his clients to hit each muscle once every 14 days, Mike, only once every 2 weeks.
Do you believe that can actually work, though? See, that was the thing where I'm very incredulous with Mike Mentzer's work, is that heavy duty system. I remember I tried that, where it would be, let's say I would bench press on Monday, I wouldn't bench press again for 10 days. Right. I was always weaker after 10 days. I was never stronger. Now, maybe I wasn't pushing it hard enough. I don't know. But it always felt that you never got good at the skill of the movement because it's so infrequent. I mean, if I deadlift once a month, it's gonna take several sets just to get into the groove, just to get everything keyed up.
Right. I personally didn't agree with that. That's one of the 3 things I disagree with, Mike, because most of the muscle damage that's incurred by resistance training, as you know, is through eccentric training or negative reps. Lowering weight. Yeah. It puts more stress on the individual muscle fibers than raising it or concentrating. Right. Now, I watched Mike train his clients. I mean, Mike knew how to train. So did his brother Ray. They knew how to go to failure. They knew eccentric emphasis. So did Casey Vieta when he did the system. So did Dorian Yates, all these top guys. But Mike's clients, he tried to make them do the eccentric, but they were going like this, They was eccentric. And for them to rest 14 days was absurd. And the truth is, and I hate to say this, from my personal observation, none of them made any gains at all. None.
See how they could. Yeah. I don't see how they could. I mean, you have to take that workout to a ridiculously extreme level to need that much time off. And let's be honest, most people don't train anywhere near that hard. Anyone who's gone to a commercial gym, most people are doing this in between sets and then, taking a picture, talking to someone. I go to this gym where there's a guy who goes to the gym I go to. He's there from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. and he's not working out the whole time. He's walking around, strutting. He's talking to this person. He's looking at his phone. He does this for 5 reps, another 20 minutes, he's doing something. Very few people are training at such an intense level where they need that kind of time off. Let's be honest.
Mike, I'll give you a flat statement. I go to Gold's Gym in Venice. It's a famous gym.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, all right, I train at night. There's not as many people there, but I've been there during the day too. I'm telling you, 99.9% of the people there not only do not know how to train at all, and I'm including personal trainers, but there's no level of intensity at all. Zero. There's no eccentric contract. They go like this. There's no eccentric emphasis at all. There's no there's no effort. And the cell phone stuff is ridiculous. I see people when they're doing an exercise going like this, they're playing with their cell phone. There's no focus on the exercise at all.
Leg extensions
no. I see this all the time. It takes all, I'm telling you, it takes all my willpower not to walk up to him and say, you are wasting. Why don't you just go home and watch Netflix? Because you're wasting your time.
On the exercise bike doing this. He's on the exercise bike.
Yeah. Right.
I see that all the time.
I see this every freaking day at Gold's Gym. There's zero intensity. And what is it add up to? No gains. Zero. These people never change year after. I'm talking not one iota. The fat guys stay fat. The skinny guys stay skinny. The muscular guys, who a lot of it's genetics, they look the same. There's no progress whatsoever. Nothing.
When I go to the gym, because to me the gym is not a bar or a casino or anywhere that's fun to be at, right? Anywhere. It's not a concert. So when I go to the gym, I usually do 3 moves. I do 3 moves and then I'm out of there. So for example, yesterday I did hip belt squats, took the last set to as many reps as I could. And I could have left after that, honestly, because my body was shot. And then I did weighted pull-ups, took that to as many reps as I could do. And then I did this machine bench press, which I really like. I'll text you a picture of it. I haven't seen this machine in many gyms, but it feels really good. Just the groove put me in a really nice groove. So I did those 3 moves, pushed. I did 3 sets. The last set of each move I pushed to my limit. I was done after that. I wanted to leave. Doing anything more would have been a waste of time. But that's because the intensity level was high. It wasn't high on all 3 sets because I can't do 3 sets to failure. Because once I go to failure, it's over. Why am I doing another set after going failure? So when I do 3 sets, the first 2 are just to get me keyed in. So when I'm doing those hip belt squats, I had 405 on it. The first set I did 5, second set I did 5, and then third set, now I'm in the groove. Now I'm going to push it to my limit. I'm going to do as many as I can. Same thing with pull-ups. I do a couple sets where I'm doing weighted pull-ups with 45 pounds, 3 reps, and then 6 on the last one because now I'm primed in. Same thing with the bench press machine. But honestly, 3 moves is all I needed to do because anything else would have just been me wasting time. If I started doing curls and machines and dips and stuff like that, my body's already shot.
It's funny that you say that, Mike, because that's almost exactly what I do. I do an average of 3 sets per exercise. I found that 4 sets is too much already, right? But on the first 2 sets, I'm using effort, and I'm always, I'm taking 4 seconds to lower. I do use negative contractions. I always try to incorporate that, but it's the last set that I call out. Almost every exercise I do on the 3rd set, I really try to go, if not to complete failure, at least to near failure. Because remember, I'm over 40, so I can get away with it. I try to go to very close to failure on the 3rd set, only on the 3rd. And I believe if you train that way, in fact, as a matter of fact, Dorian Yates actually trained that way. Dorian Yates used to tell people that he did 2 sets, but he actually did 4 because I watched him train many times. He didn't count the first 2 sets because he didn't go to failure. They were like, he called them warm-up sets.
Right.
The 2 sets, he went to failure. So he was blank. He didn't look at for him, the first 2 sets didn't do a damn thing. even though he was lifting heavy weight, he wasn't going to failure. So he figured he wasn't working the muscle completely. Right. The last 2 sets to failure, that was working the muscle. And Arthur Jones and Mike Mentzer both pointed out, which is true, if you really train with very high intensity to failure, you will literally not be able to do. If you can do 20 sets going and saying you're going to failure, you're a fucking liar. Yeah. I'll say right to your face. You can't. In fact, I'll go through work. If anyone tells me, I'll go through a workout with them. I'll train them. I'll make them go to failure and let's see if they do 20. I guarantee you they won't be able to do more than 4. If they're really tough, they'll get 4. Most people will get 2 and die.
No, you're right. That's why when Dorian Yates would train people, there's a lot of footage of Dorian Yates working with clients on YouTube. And whenever he goes, look, when most people think they're done, I'll get a few more reps out of them, because most people, they don't push themselves to those limits, because let's be honest, it's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable to train to failure. I did 1 set of failure on incline presses a couple days ago. And I mean, it was rest pause in the last couple of reps, because I had a pause in between to get those out. But by the time I finished that set, I was done. There was nothing else to do. In fact, everything else felt weak after that, because I was so neurologically drained that the other 2 moves that I did, I was significantly weaker on those. So it takes a lot out of you. So when you go to, like you said, if you do 5 reps and you think the 5th rep is the last, and then you're able to do that same amount of weight for those amount of reps again in 3 minutes, you didn't go to failure.
You're right. There was a guy years ago I interviewed when I was writing for the magazines. He was never really made, he was pretty competitive bodybuilder. He wasn't a top guy. His name was James DeMello. And the thing I remember about him was his calves were absolutely immense. I mean, they were gigantic. They would have made Dorian Yates look like he had skinny calves. I mean, and I said to him, James, how the hell did you, those calves are genetic. Please don't tell me that those calves aren't genetic. You got the freakiest calves I've ever seen, except the only guy before that who came close was Chris Dickerson, who was Mr. Olympia. This guy had it made his thighs look skinny. His calves were so big. He says, here's my secret, Jerry. I do not have genetic calves. I said, how'd you build them? He says, and I'll never forget what he says. He says, when I do my calf work, my set continues way past when most people stop. I keep going. In other words, most people stop when they feel pain. I go way beyond that. I've developed the ability to go way. I go to the point where it feels like there's a blowtorch on my calf. I go way back. I go till I can't even lift my heels. And I thought about it. I said, well, that makes sense, but you still. I mean, he wasn't really fully telling the truth, because the way his calves were, you can't get calves like that no matter how hard you train. His calves were just off the charts. They were freaky. But there was merit to what he says, because when you see most people, if you want to talk about calves, when they do calves, none of them really use that much intensity. They never go to failure. They use very short movement, these little bouncy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Never do it right. And then they complain that their calves don't grow. Of course they're not going to grow. Why would you grow? You have to do full, and Mike Mentzer talked about this, you got to do full movements. You got to do all the way up and all the way down. I mean, again, you're not going to get calves like Yates or DeMello, but I've done it with myself. I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, when the gyms closed, I didn't have access for a couple of weeks to any equipment at all. I started with what do they call the rubber expand?
Rubber resistance bands. Yeah.
I started with the bands, but I couldn't. There's no way to train calves. So I started doing an old exercise I did when I used the high intensity. When I used the high intensity, Arthur Jones said he didn't have later on he came up with a machine you could do calf raises on. But in the beginning, he used to tell people the only calf exercise you need is one-legged calf raises holding a dumbbell. That's all you need. 3 sets, twice a week. That's it. That will build as much size as you could possibly get. I remembered that because I actually did it, and I did gain size on my calves. So I said to myself, all right, I have no weights, so I'm going to just, I'm older now, I'm not as strong as I was back then. I'm going to do body weight one-legged calf raises. I did that, and my whole purpose, Mike, was to prevent complete atrophy of the calves, because you have to understand, in fact, I'm writing an article on this right now about muscle loss with age. When you get older, the muscles that go first are the peripheral muscles, the forearms and the calves, and then it goes upwards to the thighs and so on and so forth. So the calves are one of the muscles that go first. So my purpose in doing the body weight standing one-legged calf raises was to prevent total atrophy. And it worked. My calves, I lost size on my calves, but they didn't shrink down to where it looked like a bone, you know? So, but when I went back to the gym, when I had access, my calves was smaller, right? Because I hadn't done any weight training for over a year and a half. No weight training for the calves, right? When I went back to the gym and I had access to the machines, I started to do I followed exactly what these, I didn't do a lot of sets of reps, but each went to total failure, and I almost was screaming by the end of the set. And even at my age, I have to admit, this freaked me out. Even at my advanced age, when putting size on the calves is almost impossible, I still got 3/4 of an inch on my calves at my age. And that proves to me one thing: if you train your calves hard enough, properly, with intensity, with full movements, don't try and go crazy on the weight where you can't even go all the way up. Right. I don't give a shit what your genetics are. You will gain some muscle on your calves. I'm totally convinced by my own, because I don't have genetic calves. I'm totally convinced of that. So I know it works. And by the way, I want to add, before I say anything else.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic, we're talking about Mike Mentzer, the Arthur Jones, and this type of high-intensity training. If you read my news, you know I've said this ad infinitum. I know my subscribers, they probably go crazy because I say this like every 3 issues. The best gains I ever made in all, has it been 63 years I've been working out, the best gains I ever made were in the early 70s when I used the high-intensity training system as advocated. That was before Mike came along. This is Arthur Jones, where I trained 3 times a week, whole body workouts.
Yeah.
I did an average of 1 to 2 sets per exercise, total failure. Each workout lasted 25 minutes, and I gained like crazy, to the point where Arnold, this was the original Gold's Gym, Arnold came up to me one day and asked me which steroids I was taking. Arnold, I swear to God, I'm not taking anything. So they had the leg routine consisted of leg extensions, no rest. Then you did leg press. I believe it was the leg press was the second one. The third one was squats. 1 set of each. You did the extensions to failure, leg presses to near failure, and squats to near failure, because you didn't have a spotter. It was too dangerous to go to failure. That's all I said. But I did it really hard. Arnold watched me do it, and he says to me, you're not going to be able to keep this up. I said, what do you mean? He says, it's too hard. You're training too hard. I said, so what? Look at the gains I'm making. How could you say it's bad? He said, it's not that the body can't handle it, the mind.
Yeah.
After a while, even only 3 times a week, coming in the gym, training to complete failure with heavy weight like you're doing, you will burn out mentally. And I was making so many gains. Arnold was a friend. I didn't want to argue. I said, okay, Arnold, thanks for I walked away. I said, he's full of shit. I'm making gains. I'm going to continue this. 4 months later, I burned out. I never got any injuries. Never hurt myself. I just dreaded going to the gym. I couldn't do heavy weight to failure even though it was only 3 times. I just couldn't do it. So I went back to traditional training.
I've always found that. I mean, I definitely make progress when I do 1 set to failure too, but it doesn't go on forever. Just like nothing goes on forever. No program works forever. But I think more your mind breaks down before your body does, because you start thinking psychologically, just knowing you have to go do something. You're like, oh, I've got to go do that today. Now you're dreading it. And if you're dreading something, it's a battle of attrition, and you're not going to be able to sustain that. That's why I think working out has to be enjoyable if you want to make it a lifelong endeavor. Because if it's something where you're dreading it every single time, or even the night before you're going, oh man, I have to go do this workout tomorrow, you're not going to be able to sustain that. You can only do that for short periods of time. So whenever I'm training the failure and I'm making progress, I always say to myself, enjoy it while it lasts.
Right.
Because it's not going to last forever. And if you're smart, you'll shift gears before you start burning out. Right. And I'm very intuitive now with the way I train. So I know when I need to, for me now, I know when to skip a day. I know when to push my body. Sometimes I go to the gym with a plan of I'm going to push it really hard. And then during the warm-up sets, I realize not today. Don't go home. Don't give up. But let's just work on technique today. Let's not try to push everything hard. I did that this past Saturday. I realized, okay, it's not going to be a strong day. but it's not going to be a wasted day either. I'm just going to work on technique, maybe try some things I haven't tried before. And then yesterday, Tuesday, I went in, I had a great workout. I felt really strong on my warm-up sets. I go, today I'm going to push it really hard on everything. Today I'll either take off or do a light workout in my garage. But you get to a point after many years of training where you know what works for you and you train very intuitively. Like, I don't follow any program at this point. I apply concepts to basic movements. But I know when to shift gears. I know when I can really push it hard. I know when I can pull it back. But with Mike Mentzer, that's what makes me think about when he was at the peak of his physical development, he wasn't training the way he recommended many years later, from what I could see. The heavy duty concept of once every 7 days or even once every 5 days, that seems like something he came up with maybe towards the end of his competitive career or afterwards. It seemed that the best progress he made was also doing what you just mentioned, the Arthur Jones type one set to failure, full body workouts. My only reservation personally with the Arthur Jones systems, I always found it was too many moves for someone like me. It was too many things. So you're doing 8 different moves or so, for example, maybe more. That's too many things for me to think about. So basically, the last thing I want to be doing is doing some kind of bench press. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go to failure on this. And then I got to do rows after this. And then I got to do pull-ups. And then I got to do squats. And then I got to do leg extensions. And I got to do some ab stuff. I think that's what I find, that any program that has too many movements is not a good one for me. I do better with just a few things done really well.
Well, it works for you. What I tell people today, when what I write about is, I still believe that the training to failure, even the old style, like heavier weight to failure, like Jones and Mike advocated, I think that it's I don't think it's good for all year round because of the mental problem. You will burn out, but I think it's good. You know what I mean by periodization, where you divide your training into different mesocycles, they call it, where you might train light for a couple of months, moderately heavy, and then heavy. I think that if you limit going to failure training, whether it's 3 times a week, whatever you want, and you limit it to, let's say, 3 to 4 months, I think it's a terrific way to get out of a training rut, because that's what it did for me. Before I did the high intensity system, I was doing this crazy high volume thing. I would do as many as 70 sets per muscle. It was insane. It was lunacy. I was only 20 years old, so I could get away with it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't making any gains. I'd start to make gains and then stop because of I didn't realize I was grossly overtraining. When I went to high intensity, reduced it to like a fraction of what I was doing. That's why I started to gain like crazy. My body was now having a chance to recuperate. You see what I'm saying? So I think today, if somebody, I think it's a terrific system, meaning training to failure, high intensity. If you want to get out of a training rut, if you're doing, let's say, a traditional style of training, and you're kind of going through the motions, or even if you're training a little bit harder, but you haven't been making any gains in strength and size, give it a shot for about 3 to 4 months and see what happens. I guarantee 99% of the time it'll pull you out of the rut. No, you don't have to use any drugs, nothing like that. You can take supplements are okay. I guarantee it 99% of the time you'll start to make gains again. I almost guarantee it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, do you find that this style of training, that machines are more amenable to training to failure than free weights?
Absolutely.
I've always found that for machines, it's perfect. So right now I'm doing more high intensity type training in my workouts in the gym. At home, I use free weights, but I find that, right, for example, yesterday, 2 out of 3 movements were machines. Hip belt squat machine, which I love for squats. It allows me to stay more upright, and then it keeps my knees in a healthier position, and I can really focus on the muscle groups. Pull-ups, that's free weights. But then with most pressing moves, I find that machine presses feel the best now, especially a hammer strength type machine, or that kind of movement where it's more of a natural curvature. So I think that kind of stuff lends itself better to training to failure too. I think sometimes people try to train to failure with free weights. That's more of a daunting task.
It's much harder. And I'll tell you, at this stage of the game, because of injuries like to my shoulders and my knees, 90% of my workout is machines. Because for some strange reason, I don't lift heavy weight anymore, but for some strange reason, for example, let's say shoulders, I can do a shoulder press machine with no pain, right? But when I try and do the same movement with dumbbells, I get halfway up, my shoulder feels like it's going to break in half. It's the same movement. But for some reason, I have no pain with the machine and intense pain with the free weight. I still keep certain exercises. I feel you can't escape free weights. I still keep it in there. My workout's a combination, but at this stage of the game, it's mostly machines. I just find it's easy to handle. And as you say, it's easier to go close to failure with, much easier with machines.
Well, I mean, I think also with going to failure, the last thing you want to have is fear on your mind, such as bench pressing to failure. Okay, well, if you don't have someone spotting you, then you're not going to go to that absolute rep, because if you don't complete it, you could die from that. People die every year from getting crushed by a barbell bench pressing. Then you have a spotter who knows when to get in or knows when to apply some help if needed, and not too much. But with the machine, you're not going to get crushed by the weight. So it either goes or it doesn't. Like when I do hip belt squat machine, the worst thing that'll happen is I squat down and I can't come up. Well, then you just let it go. I don't have all the weight on my back that's going to crush me.
Right. Well, even Arthur Jones advised, that leg cycle I mentioned earlier, that was his early leg cycle. He called it Nautilus training. Even he advised not to go to failure on the squats. It was too dangerous.
Yeah.
Even if you had spotters, he said go to near failure. He says go to failure on the other two exercises, but the squats don't go to total failure. It's too dangerous.
Yeah, what if you go to squat? What if you go to failure on squats and your knee buckles, or you just have a spasm? You have all that weight on your back. It doesn't matter how many spotters you have; they're not going to be able to get that weight off you fast enough.
No, it's way too dangerous to go to failure. I don't advise that for anybody. I don't care who you are.
People doing the leg press where you're at the 45-degree angle and they're going super heavy on that, and they have a spotter on each side. I go, your spotters aren't going to be able to do jack shit if that weight comes down on you. And think about that. That's probably the worst position you could possibly be in to get crushed by weights.
Oh, God.
I have 2,000 pounds on the leg press. I don't like any move. I don't like, there's many reasons why I don't like leg presses, but one of the reasons why I don't like it is you have to put so many plates on each side. And I don't do half-ass reps like you've talked about in your newsletter and different shows. I do full range reps. But I find that I'm pretty strong on leg presses, so I have to put a lot of plates on each side. While if I do hip belt squats, I'm nowhere near as strong as that. It's a more natural movement. I'm not stuck in that compressed position. And more importantly, I don't have to put so many plates on each side. So to me, putting a lot of plates on each side, that's not a positive thing. Now, that's something people do to take a clip to put on Instagram and show how strong they are. But my attitude is if you can put that many plates on each side, it's too easy a movement pattern for you. Now, this is assuming you're actually doing it correctly, full range. None of this 2-inch bullshit that we see with leg presses. Most people, when they do leg presses, the range of motion is more of a calf movement. It's not even that, but it's the knees are barely bending. The knees. You have to watch. You have to watch carefully. They'll look for the knees to even bend on each round.
The weight isn't even moving. The weight on the machine's not even. There's a person who comes in at night. This person is a transsexual, right? And the thing is, I guess should I call it? It's a man, but
transgender woman or a transgender man? It's a
transgender man. It's a man wants to become a
biological man who became a woman. Basically.
Right. So I'll call him.
Transgender woman. It would be
trying to figure out the right pronoun to call him. I don't think he's fully a woman yet. I mean, what do I call him? I
don't know what the line of demarcation is with that. Can you identify as a woman if you still have a penis? Now, if you're asking me that, I would say no. But once you've had the surgery, then hey, we can make an argument. Even then, you were still born a biological man. But hey, if you're willing to go that far, you can call yourself whatever you want. All right.
Anyway, this person, I'll call him person. This person, I see him at night, only trains legs, never trains upper body, and loads up one of the leg presses machine to some like 10, 11, 12 plates, right? Wow. The first time I saw him do this, I saw him loading up. I said, "Holy shit! Is he that strong? That would kill me if I tried. I couldn't even move that an inch."
Yeah.
Then I watched him do it, Mike. The movement was so minute. As I said, the weight, you couldn't even see the weights moving. It was like a millimeter of an inch movement. And then the person, I watched him, he takes out the cell phone and rests about 15 minutes between each set playing with the cell phone, And I'm thinking, he's not taking pictures of himself to put in. I don't know. Well, it's something you can't explain. I mean,
well, the most beneficial part of that would be taking the plates off and putting them back where you got them from. That's going to be the most work you're doing, putting the plates on and taking them off. That's the workout.
this person keeps adding weight every couple of weeks. I mean, they started with like 8 plates. Now they're up to like 11. I mean, it's like it's almost like they think they're getting stronger. It's impossible. They're not getting stronger.
I'd rather do the opposite, where you do it more slower and controlled, so you don't have to put as much weight on.
That's the way I do.
More efficient, because if I can make 2 plates on each side more difficult than 3 plates on each side for, let's say, like an incline press, why would I want to put 3 plates on each side when I can do 2 and just have a very controlled, lower concentric, controlled concentric? You're going to get it's less wear and tear on the body, because one thing people also don't realize is the more weight you use, the more wear and tear it is on your body, even if you're using great technique. You could do deadlifts with 700 pounds with perfect technique, but it's still 700 pounds. If you weigh 215 and you're deadlifting 700 pounds, that's a lot of weight that your body has to work against.
Well, look at Dorian Yates. He trained that way. I mean, with heavy weight all the time, and only did like very few sets. But by his own admission, he had to retire.
Yeah.
Because of bodybuilding because of injuries. He tore his lat, tore his bicep, tore his leg bicep. He had all these injuries. And his philosophy was, if I can't compete at 100% of my best, I don't compete. He wasn't afraid of Ronnie Coleman or these competitors. He dropped out because he just couldn't train maximally, so he retired.
Yeah, sustainable. But didn't Mike Mentzer have similar issues? I think I could have recalled that you said that you talked to Mike one time and you asked him, well, how come you don't train anymore? Why don't you apply those concepts? Because I think he got to the point in his career, correct me if I'm wrong, where he didn't work out at all, and he was known to smoke Marlboros. Yeah, he was known to smoke Marlboros outside of Gold's Gym, and he he wanted. And I think in his words, he said, look, I did these restricted diets and healthy living for most of my life, so now I'm just going to have fun.
Well, he told me that he said his entire body is in pain.
Yeah.
In fact, he said that because I asked him once, because, people would come to the gym. Mike was training people, and they expect to see the Mike Mentzer they saw in the magazines. This guy with his big gut hanging out, he had a fat stomach.
Big glasses.
Yeah, with the big glass. And people would actually come up to me and say, that isn't Mike Mentzer, is it? I said, yeah, it is. And they'd say, what happened to him? And I didn't want to say, what can I say? I said, he just, he doesn't train much anymore. I just leave it at that. But one day I went up to Mike and I said, Mike, I said, did you ever think about like just getting back in shape to shut these people up?
Yeah.
Kind of like make fun of you, just shut them the fuck up. Get back in shape and shut them, that'll shut them up in 2 seconds. He says, I would. He says, but my whole body is in pain everywhere. He says, I hurt everywhere. I never forgot that. That's the reason why.
Yeah, that's kind of demoralizing. That's disheartening rather to hear, because I wouldn't want to be in that situation. I don't want my body to be so beat up that I can't even train anymore, because I love training. Training does so much for my mood and my confidence that if I couldn't train anymore, it would change my whole personality. I would be a much different person. I mean, my whole life, everything good that happened to me in my life is from my love for training. It's what got me into the business. It's what got me to meet all these great people I know. Yeah. It's what improved my mental health, because I've dealt with lifelong depression, and training and healthy living really helps me to keep that stuff on intact. It helps me to quiet that voice in the back of my head. So if I got to a point where my body's so beat up I can't even work out anymore, that would be really disheartening for me, to say the least.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Mike, you said that it's very important for you to enjoy your training.
Yeah.
It's almost a fun thing. And I know that you're into it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to make an admission to you. After 63 years of training, I cannot characterize my training as fun. but I have a different motivation now. See, what made my training fun personally for me was making gains. There was muscle that would excite me, to see my muscles growing, to get stronger. Even if I wasn't growing, just to add a couple of reps to an exercise, my lifts improving. That was highly motivating. It made me love to want to go to the gym and do it. Unfortunately, at this stage of the game, I can't make those kind of gains. I can't make the strength gains are nil. The muscle gains are slower than molasses, So you might say to me, well, what motivates you to go to the gym? I had to shift my mind away from that type of thinking into a way of motivating. You know what motivates me? Life.
Yeah.
I'm pre-diabetic. I myself are insulin sensitive, very bad diabetes in my family, all over the place. My father's, my grandfather, they all had diabetes, and I'm showing early. I'm what they call pre-diabetic. If I don't exercise, if I let my body fat get really out of hand, I know that it's going to kill me. You know what I mean? I mean, so every time I start to get lazy, and it happens, I'm going to tell you, it happens almost every other day, where, like, it was raining hard the other day. I said, fuck it, I'm not going to drive in the rain. And then what I say to myself, Jerry, you know what happens if you don't work out? In a couple of days, your blood glucose is going to go through the ceiling. You're going to have headaches. You're going to feel like shit. Force yourself to go to the gym. Do it to stay alive, to keep healthy, and it works. Believe it or not, that maybe when you get older guys might.
Honestly, I can relate to what you're saying, because I go through long periods of time where I'm not motivated to train. I don't want to give the illusion that I'm always fired up to train. Honestly, for pretty much all of last year, my depression was higher than it normally is, and I wasn't motivated to train pretty much. I mean, I didn't stop working out. I made myself do it because I'm disciplined, but I didn't enjoy it. I don't think I enjoyed training at all last year. But I tell you what, if I stopped training last year, I would have been really pissed off at myself, because once you resume, you're going to be weak, you're out of shape. But I made myself do it, and I made myself do it for all the reasons you just mentioned. Because both of my parents died of heart issues. My mother died of a heart attack in 2015. My father passed last year of heart failure, and he had low blood pressure. So that wasn't enough, though, because he still had heart failure. He didn't have a heart attack, but he had heart failure. Now, my mother was dedicated to a pretty healthy lifestyle. She ate really healthy. She exercised every day. My father did not eat healthy, and he did not exercise regularly. Both of them had a similar outcome and died at almost the same age. But the thing is that my father was not physically healthy. He wasn't healthy with what he ate, but he gave no fucks about anything. He had a little bit of Donald Trump in him. He just did whatever he wanted. He didn't care how his actions affected others. So he didn't stress out about being an imposition on anyone else. He didn't stress out about how his actions affected others, is what I'm trying to say. Now, my mother, on the other hand, she was very healthy with nutrition and activity, but she was very emotionally unhealthy. She repressed a lot of things. She let people run her over. Like my father was very emotionally abusive, and she tolerated that. She didn't look at it as emotional abuse. She's just like, oh, that's just the way he is. Because that was just what people did back then. They just rationalized other people's behavior. People still do it to a large extent now, but then it was especially pronounced how people would rationalize other people's behaviors.
But there's another factor also I was going to mention, is that you mentioned depression. That's another motivating factor for me. It's the way exercise affects the brain. There's been, in the medical journals, for some reason, I don't know why, there's like this avalanche of studies showing how exercise protects the brain. It stimulates nerve growth factors. It helps to prevent stuff like brain degeneration, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. It basically keeps your brain young. It helps you retain your memory, your intelligence. I always look, what I have, my biggest asset today, I'm not saying I'm a genius or anything, that my biggest asset is my brain. It allows me to write. It allows me to think about things, come up with ideas.
Hey, it's in your name. Your name says it all. Brainum.
Right. But the point is that exercise, I believe, really helps my thinking. When I work out, my brain, in fact, I get a lot of my article ideas while I'm in the gym.
Right.
I think it's increased blood flow and oxygen to the brain. So I'll be doing exercise. Suddenly, like out of nowhere, I'm doing the exercise and I'm thinking about this. Oh, I got to do an article on this. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, and so the exercise itself, I mean, if it did nothing more than maintain my brain health, I would do it, and it would motivate me. Even if it didn't maintain you want to maintain your cardiovascular and all that. But I'm saying it's of paramount importance to me personally to keep my brain going. So that will always motivate me till I die to go to the gym and never stop. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, those are all good points. I mean, for improving my mood, nothing is more effective than training. I could have a terrible mood and I go, like yesterday, my mood wasn't all that great, but I worked out. I felt great afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good. I definitely never feel worse. I never go train and feel worse. I never regret it going, oh, I wish I didn't work out today. I feel worse now. You always feel better. But I also do a lot of activity. Like I was telling you, I walk my dogs 2 hours every day, 7 days a week. So I'm very active. I skateboard, I do other stuff. I go hiking. So I'm not someone who just goes to the gym 3-4 times a week and then I'm sitting around watching Netflix for the rest of the week. I'm very active on top of that. And the walks do a lot for my mood. What I find with walks is they squash anxiety. If I have a high level of anxiety and I go for a long walk, I'm getting fresh air, I'm out with my dogs, I always feel better by the time I get home. I'm always relaxed and I'll sleep better at night too. So I feel better the next day.
Well, the thing about it is that I believe a lot of the people, you hear that all these people talk about being depressed and this and that. I think a lot of it is because they sit around and, as you say, they watch net, they don't move, they just sit there. And if the body is made to move, the brain has to get that blood circular oxygen.
Doing anything empowering. Like when you write an article, I'm sure it feels empowering after you finish it.
Fantastic.
You do so much research with what you do. You're not just writing a quick 500-word essay. You're doing really extensive research. So I'm sure there's a level of gratification for you by the time you complete it. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm telling you, it's like, well, I don't want to act like Arnold when he was in the pumping iron room. He says, what do you say? When I'm in the gym, it feels like coming. He says, making a muscle pump. It feels like a coming. He said, he made that kind of, hyperbolic statement. But I have to say, related to when I finish an article, I am so uplifted. I mean, I can't. It's almost like having an orgasm. I feel fantastic. I feel like
that's going to be the tagline for this episode. I'm going to put that in.
Oh, seriously. And even when I just write, I have a writing routine I do every day. When I finish my quota, I call it a quota because I have to write a certain amount of words every day, right? When I finish, I have a sense of satisfaction to the point, I'll tell you, it's gotten a little bad because if for some reason I don't get my writing in, I start to feel like shit.
Yeah.
It's like what they used to call exercise addiction. Years ago, there was this thing what they call exercise addiction, where people who went to the gym a lot, if they missed a workout, they get depressed, they get all fucked up, and they get anxiety, and they called it exercise addiction. They had to go to the gym, otherwise they get all these mental symptoms. That's almost the way I am with my writing. In other words, I feel like I have to, there's no gun to my head. I can miss a day or two. I work for myself, but I feel satisfaction when I do my work. I feel, okay, you've done something, you've accomplished something today, and it makes me feel good. You know what I mean?
Describing to me is a positive. Some people are going to hear that and think it's a negative, but the thing is, all driven people, all successful people can relate to what you just said, because that's why they're successful. Because if they don't push themselves and achieve, they get depressed. Right. The average person can't relate to that because they don't care. They're happy to do their job that they hate. And I'm not denigrating that in any way. I respect anyone who works. But I'm just saying the average person doesn't care about doing anything that's of worth. They don't care about high level achievements. They're happy to just coast. Look, most people are happy to just do the job they hate, go to happy hour on Friday, have a couple of drinks, have some banter with some friends, watch football all day on Sunday and stuff your face. That's the average person. And that's fine. If that's who you are and you're happy with that, more power to you. But that's not going to work for me. I'm a very driven person. Part of the reason why I was depressed last year is I wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't pushing myself with training. I wasn't pushing myself with my business. I wasn't trying to improve at a high level. In fact, I felt the need to just coast because I've been working hard for a long time. I go, this year I'm just going to coast. And that was fine, but I learned a lot about myself. I learned that if I'm not going after something, I'm not going to be happy. I have to always be trying to achieve things, right or wrong, good or bad.
I'll tell you a quick anecdote that it's kind of funny. Years ago, I got a job with the post office. Now, the first job I had was working what they call a clerk. I'd get there at 4 o'clock in the morning. They give me big bags of mail, and I'd sort out the mails for the post office boxes, right? Well, maybe it was the fact that I had to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what, but I actually was so bored because every day, Mike, was exactly the same. Yeah. Exactly the same. Nothing changed. Exactly the same. And after about a week, it's the only time in my life I actually fell asleep standing up. I had the letters in my hand. I was leaning against the thing where you put the letters in, and the supervisor caught me. Hey, he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "What are you doing?" Oh, I said, "I'm sorry." He says, "Wake up, man. Listen." So I did it, and I said, "I can't stand this freaking job. It's this. There's no brain. It's a rote job. You can have a robot do this. It requires no thinking at all. I said so. I heard
creativity at all. Yeah.
Listen to this. I heard there was an opening for a delivery postal guy in Pacific Palisades, like in 2 towns over.
Yeah.
I transferred it and I became a carrier. I said, it'll be great. I'm out in the open. I drove this little postal truck and I'm delivering the boxes. I said, it'll be fun. I'm not stuck in this office. I said, I won't get bored. Guess what? It was the same freaking thing every day. You get in a little truck, you drive through the winding streets of Pacific Palisades, and they'd switch me on different routes. It was a weird city. No, the streets didn't match. I mean, you could get lost. One night, I was still delivering mail at 10 p.m. The supervisor had to come out and help me fit it. It was supposed to be done by 12 noon. I was out there at 10. I was going crazy. I remember thinking, if this is my life, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
You have to understand, there was no creativity. There was no thinking involved. Now, in contrast to me, the other postal workers were happy as larks. They loved it. Some of these guys were there 20, 25 years. They got their paycheck. They got their government benefits. That's all they wanted. They had no ambition. They didn't want to do anything. They just wanted their regular pay and their benefits, and they were happy. I wasn't in that category. There was a 90-day probation period. At the end of 90 days, the supervisor called me, and this is in the second one in Pacific Palace. He says, Jerry, I know you're an intelligent guy. You have to understand, this job's not for everybody. So I know he's going to give me a spiel telling me that they're going to let me go. So I went like this. I said, say no more. I said, you're going to tell me that I didn't meet, that you're going to let me go. I said, I'm not arguing with you. I totally agree. I said, I'm not putting down these other guys. They're great guys. This job is not for me. I will literally be in a mental institution if I have to stay here. Yeah. So he said, well, I'm glad, you're not, good luck to you. We shook hands. I walked away. But
that's how I felt about any job I had working for other people. It just wasn't a fit for me. It's not my personality type. I don't like someone telling me when I have to be somewhere, what I can do, when I can take vacations. I don't like being subordinate to anybody. That's just my personality type. I rather do things on my own and take 100% responsibility for my success. Like with my business now, if things are going south, that's 100% my fault. It's no one else's fault. If things are going really well, I can take a lot of the credit too, but the responsibility falls 100% on my shoulders, and I wouldn't have it any other way. That's the way I want to live my life.
Yeah, I have to tell you, if I say so myself, if anybody looked at my record without knowing me, they'd say this guy's a misfit, because most of the jobs I had starting at 10 years old when I delivered newspapers and stuff, I didn't get fired from that, but every job I've had practically, I got fired or was let go. You know why? For the exact reason you just said. I have this a problem with authority figures, if you want to call. I don't like taking orders, especially from people that I consider to be kind of on the dumb side, or not on my level. That's really hard for me to do. Like when I worked for the phone company, I was in this office, and they had this system where if you were there 20 years, you automatically became a supervisor, not on merit, just on longevity. They made you and the supervisor was a freaking moron. Yeah. And I just couldn't stand it. And I wound up getting fired. Well, they fired me because I had to go to the hospital for asthma. So they fired me while I was in the hospital. I didn't, but the point being that all these jobs and the Cub Scouts, they threw me out of the Cub Scouts. They threw me out of the Boy Scouts because the Scoutmaster, whatever, they were ordering the kids around. I said, who the fuck is this guy? Who is he? What's his claim to fame? What makes him so great that he's ordering me around? And it was like a rebellion thing. I said, fuck it.
Well, that's why joining a fraternity never appealed to me in college. A bunch of my friends went rushing for fraternities. I go, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I go, if I tried to go out for a fraternity, the first guy who tried to haze me, I would punch him in the face, and I would be out of that fraternity real fast. First guy tried to wake me up at 3 a.m. and give me some stupid order. I got to go running through the field naked or whatever dumbass stuff they do. I'd be like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm going to slap you in the face instead. How about that? That's just me, though. I think where we're going with this, it's not about better or worse. It's about, you just have to be honest with who you are. There are people that would hate to be entrepreneurs. They would hate it. They would be like, this is way too many variables to control. I want the consistency of going somewhere and I just do my routine and I take some level of solace in routines that are repetitive. And then I have my free time on the weekends where I can just kick back with my family, etc. I think that's great. As long as you're happy doing that stuff, that's great. But if you're someone who has to be an entrepreneur, you're never going to be happy working for someone else. You just won't. It just won't happen.
There's a social aspect too. Some people like going into offices and working around other people.
Right.
They don't feel comfortable they're not comfortable with themselves.
Right.
They feel like they have to be around other people. It feels unnatural not to be around other people. I'm just the opposite.
Yeah,
I am most comfortable with myself, not around other people. So as you say, if they're happy with going into an office and being around other people, more power to them. I'm happy for them. Right. It's just not me. I'm not.
What's funny is, I mean, you're basically identifying as an introvert, and I would identify that way as well. But I always find that people like us love talking as long as it's to the right people. Look, we've been talking for about 2 hours already, and it's not so much that I don't like talking to people. I just don't want to talk to anyone. Like there's people I go to this dog park every day, and I purposely go at night so I don't run into anyone. And it's not that I dislike the people there. The people there are all very nice people. It's just that I don't like small talk. I don't want to talk about what's going on in the news and political bullshit that nobody is doing anything about. Everybody likes to talk about politics. When it comes to actually doing something about something, no one's doing anything. I just don't like engaging in that kind of stuff. To me, I don't like asking people questions where I don't even care what the answer is. I'm just trying to be polite. So I'm trying to keep the conversation going. Now, though, if I'm talking to someone and they're giving me nothing, I'm perfectly comfortable just not talking either. I'm not going to keep asking you questions. Like, I don't give a fuck about what your kids are doing. Okay, it's not that I dislike kids. I don't care if your daughter's taking ballet lessons now, right? That's great. Go talk to another parent about that. I always tell people, I go, look, those of you that are parents with young kids, those of us who chose not to have kids, we don't give a fuck about what your kids are doing. Okay? No one wants to say that because you don't want to be rude or impolite, but it's like, look, I'm telling you, those of us who don't have kids, we chose not to have kids. You guys are making it sound like we want to have kids too, and we just couldn't. It just didn't work out. No, I purposely chose not to have kids. I don't want to have kids. I never wanted to have kids. I certainly don't want to hear about all these boring ass activities that someone else's kids are doing. Not that there's anything wrong with being a parent, and there's nothing wrong with your kids. Just go talk to other parents with kids about that. Most of us don't care.
Well, the reason why I go to the gym later at night is to avoid people. I make that a public admission. I mean, the gym during the day have way, way too many people. Some of these people I know from when I used to go to the gym in the afternoon, and I would never get my workout done, Mike. They'd be talking to me. I mean, at night, there's a couple of people I talk to, not at any great length, just very brief conversations. But there's far less people at night. That's the main reason why I go at night, to avoid all these people, And as far as the children thing goes, I'm kind of like laughing as you say that, because I'm right on that same wavelength as you. Nothing bores me more than having some guy show me pictures of his kids. I feel like it takes all my willpower, and I'd say, I don't fucking care about your fucking kid. You're happy being a dad? You love your kids? Great. I don't give a shit. Go tell this other guy with 5 kids. I don't give a rat's ass.
Like, you and I are both dogs people. Like, look, I love my dogs, but I don't go around talking to people about my dogs who are not dog people. I don't sit there and be like, hey, take a look at what Raina did today. Here's my new lab I rescued. If you're not someone that loves dogs, why would you be interested in that? And I have enough situational awareness to know whether to bring up things. Like, a lot of people that I know that I've seen for years at the park, they don't even know what I do for a living. I don't go around talking about training. I'm like, hey, how are you doing today, Mike? It's like, well, let me tell you about my workout I just did. Because I know they don't care about that. I don't talk about nutrition because nobody cares. Even when they bring up stupid shit, they bring up nutrition stuff that is so fucking stupid. Even then, I don't say anything because these aren't my customers. They're not paying me for advice. Who cares what they believe? And the last thing I want them to do is know how knowledgeable I am, because now it's going to be the opposite. It's like, oh, let's pick Mike's brain every time we see him.
Yeah, that used to happen to me during the day at Gold's Gym when there's much more people. People who knew that I knew a little about nutrition or whatever, they suddenly walk up to me with this person who I've never seen before. Hey, Jerry, this is Laura. Laura, Jerry really knows about nutrition and exercise. anytime you want to know anything, just go up to Jerry. I'm thinking,
They introduce you that way too. Anytime you want to know anything, go bother him, basically. I've had people do that to me too. They're like, oh, Mike's an expert in this. Anything you need to know, ask him. One guy even asked me, he's like, hey man, why don't you train so-and-so's son, take him under your wing? I was like, because I do this for a living, motherfucker. You know, this is not a nonprofit business that I'm doing here. It's like, first of all, I don't want to train anyone. I don't want to train anyone, period. You know, even when I was a kettlebell instructor, I taught workshops. I didn't do private instruction. That's number one. I certainly don't want to train anyone for free. You know, that's also, I'm way too high level and knowledgeable to waste my time doing that. But you don't deserve to train with me for free. You know, given my level of expertise, you don't deserve to get a free consult from me. That happens to me sometimes where people send me their hormone results and I give them feedback, and then they're like, oh, hey, can you take a look at my wife's results too? It's like, no, I can't. It's like, they're like, oh, here's what my doctor said about it. I wanted to get your opinion. Yeah, but you paid your doctor, and now you're coming to me for free advice. And I can promise you, the advice I give you is going to be way better than the bullshit advice your fucking general practitioner gave you. But you respect that person enough to pay that person, but then you like, oh, Mike's super knowledgeable. Yeah, I am. But you're not offering to pay me. You're looking for a free second opinion. That kind of shit really pisses me off.
Really pisses me off too, and that really got out of hand. That shit about, oh, just ask Jerry. Towards the end, it very rarely happens now, because again, there's few people I encounter. But when it does happen, I quickly add a little sentence to it. Like they'll say, Laura, this is Jerry. He really knows about nutrition. Anything you want to know about nutrition, just go ask Jerry. And what I say then is, yes, as a matter of fact, because you're a friend of George over here, I'll give you a 25% discount on the console. They never come up to me again when I say that.
Nobody wants to pay for anything.
And I'll tell you, I have a personal, you talk about personal peeve. I mentioned this when I did years ago when I did videos with Rick Drayson. People always are sending me emails. They want me to give them routines, or they ask me questions, and I say, and when I do my videos on my YouTube channel, I always talk about how if you're a subscriber, you could send me short emails about anything you might have read in Applied Metabolic or anything related to nutrition. I said, I'll be happy to ask as a bonus to your subscription, because I appreciate you subscribing. Of course, and this sounds harsh. I almost feel bad saying this, but I always add, if you're not a subscriber, there's very little chance of me answering you. And I don't go into detail, but your example of a physician or a lawyer, would these same people talk, go into a doctor's office, sit and talk with or consult with a lawyer and expect to walk out, thanks, doc, thanks, lawyer, and then get the fuck out of here. You know you're going to pay. Why? Because they're professionals. You're paying for their knowledge. So why should I give mine for free? Why?
That's my attitude too. I've spent so long learning all this stuff that I spent thousands of dollars in countless hours learning all of this stuff, to the point where I can look at someone's blood work and it takes me minutes to go through it and assess what's going on. It's not like I have to spend a lot of time, but just because it takes me a few minutes doesn't mean that it's not worth paying me, because it's the advice you're paying for. It's not the time that you're paying for me to analyze what's going on. Anyone who's an expert can analyze things pretty quickly, but the advice they're going to give you took decades for them to accumulate that, to be able to give it to you in such a concise, straightforward manner.
Don't get me wrong. I still do what they call, what is it called when you give it for free? De facto, I can't remember the term. But in other words, I still occasionally answer email questions for free. Sometimes, some guy in the gym wanted me to look at his blood tests. I did that for free. I'll do it occasionally, but I don't like it when it happens all the time, because then there's, the implication is that my information that I'm giving them, maybe they're not even thinking this, but this is the way I interpret it, that my information is not worth paying for.
Yeah, that's what they're saying, whether they're implying that or not. That's what they're saying.
In other words, a doctor, his information, even if it's shit, which very often is, as you know, is worth paying for. But Mike, Jerry, no, your information, you can give it, but I don't want to pay for it. It's not worth it. My answer to that is, fuck you then.
Yeah. I will. The only time I look at people's lab work and all that, if they're actual customers of mine. Now, I have people that have been customers of mine. They've been buying my supplements for years. I'm happy to look at, and you know what? Those aren't the people that try to take advantage either. They're just trying. They are just been using my products for a while, and maybe the outcome is not something they wanted, or the outcome is great, and they just want me to look at it and just confirm and give them some feedback. That's fine. I'm happy to do that. But someone who just emails me out of the blue, they've never supported my business. They're like, oh, I heard you on Superhuman Radio. You sound really knowledgeable. Can you take a look at my lab work here? I was like, yeah, for $500. You know? And then I always say, here's the part that's really funny. I go, you know what? I normally don't look at people's lab work, but I charge $500, and you can either make that as a donation to Project ChildSafe, which is an organization that rescues kids from human trafficking. I go ahead and make a donation to Project ChildSafe and email me the receipt, and I'll look at it. Or you can pay me that, and I'll donate it to that. Sometimes I do that just to see if people will actually do it. Even then they don't. But now it made them feel guilty. But my attitude is I go like, look, now I'm basically saying that I'm asking you to make a donation to help kids that are suffering immensely. As instead of saying, even though it's perfectly okay for me to say, this is what I charge, and I'm going to go spend that money on cocaine and hookers if I feel like it. You know, I can do whatever I want with my money. But even if I frame it as, go make a donation to a worthy organization that helps kids in need, even then, a lot of people don't want to do it, you know, because they're just full of it.
I know. Well, you know, what I do now is if I get when I get an email where people are asking me questions, the very first thing I do is go and see if I go in my Applied Medical. And if
subscriber,
if they're a subscriber, I answer them right away. Immediately. In fact, they've written back, I can't believe you answered me so rapidly. I'll answer them right away, right? If they're not a subscriber, I send them one-line answer. I said, subscribe to Applied Metabolics. All your questions will be answered. That's all I write. And of course, I never hear from them again.
Questions are answered in one of your articles.
They are answered. I'm not lying when I say that. But the funny thing is, as inexpensive as it is, these cheap motherfuckers won't even subscribe, you know.
$10 a month. You know, it's nothing for such exhaustive information.
Yeah, you know.
They're lazy. They don't want to pay the $10, and then they don't want to take the time to read the article. They want you to spoon feed it to them.
Right.
That's something that really irritates me too. Is they just want to spoon feed. They want someone to spoon feed it to them.
Well, I tell people, I sometimes I get queries where they'll say, Jerry, is there any way you could put out an edition of Applied Metabolics where it reads it to you, you know? And I tell them, I even made a joke of it in my video. There's some to say, there's no reason not to subscribe. Even if you don't know how to read, there's programs that are free that will read it to you. So even illiteracy is not an excuse. But the point being that, you know, it's true. In other words, if people want it read to them, they got this something on Microsoft Windows, it'll read you the damn article. I mean, there's no, I admit, I will not deny that my articles tend to be long, and they tend to be extremely in-depth. A guy like you with more intelligence, and I know you have the desire to learn, it's no big deal. A lot of people
have clip notes on every single article you put out has the clip notes at the very end. So sometimes I scroll to the very end and I read your synopsis, and then I go back and read the whole thing, or I don't. Sometimes I go, okay, that's what he's talking about in the article. I'm not that interested where I want to go read the whole thing. He got to the point here. Other times I read that, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to understand more. So let me go back and go through every single point. So you give people options.
I give them the option.
Well, the point is that if people profess to be actually genuinely interested in this subject matter, then there's no reason not to spend $10 a month to get that information. It's way better than all this free bullshit. See, that's the other problem too, is there's so much free information that people, exactly. 99% of it is garbage. And you have to, and if you most people don't know enough to know that it's garbage. That's the problem. You're not knowledgeable enough to assess it. Like sometimes I talk about hormones and average Joe Blow will say, man, you know, you really know your stuff. I go, yeah, I do know my stuff, but you don't know that. You don't know if I know my stuff or not. I could just be someone who's a good speaker. You know, the average person doesn't know enough to know whether I know what I'm talking about or not. Let's just be honest here. But if you read your newsletter every week, they're going to become pretty fucking knowledgeable. Like, look, imagine if someone spent an entire year reading every single article that you put out for 12 months in a row. It's going to be pretty fucking knowledgeable by the end of that year. You're going to be almost like a PhD level in nutrition and supplements.
You're going to be like a true expert, and I'm not exaggerating, seriously.
Yeah, they will.
Because I got to tell you, when I researched those articles, Mike, I'll admit to you, I learned something myself, and I've been looking at this stuff for over 6 decades. I still learn just doing the research, you know? And as far as those videos go, what you said is an accurate point. If I don't watch a lot of the YouTube stuff, but I'll look at them like when I'm eating something. I'll watch one while I'm eating, you know, and I watch some of the stuff pertaining to fitness and exercise, and all I got to use is a little bit of technical terms, and right away I look at the numbers. They get these like 500,000. I mean, they don't know what the fuck they talk about.
That's the other way that all these so-called experts are hoodwinking people. They talk in this mumbo jumbo. My attitude is, you know what? If you're an expert, you can explain it to the average person with very easy to understand language. Now, that is a sign of a real expert, not someone who uses a bunch of convoluted, obscure words that nobody fucking knows unless you're in the field. That way you just confuse people and they go, oh, wow, I don't know what that word means, but this guy must be knowledgeable to use it. It's like, no, if he were knowledgeable, he wouldn't use that word. He would use words that you can understand.
Right. I have to say, I mean, believe it or not, from the videos I've seen on YouTube, I would say 99% of them are complete, total bullshit.
Yeah, they are. It's such a waste of time. There's so much bullshit information. Look, one thing you've talked about are SARMs, right? In full disclosure, I've used SARMs before, but I've never said that they're safe. I've never said that they're free of side effects or that they're safe. But there are so many people out there that say these are 100% safe. There are alternatives to anabolics. They work just as well as steroids, which they don't. They don't work as well as steroids, and they're not free of side effects. Okay, anyone who's ever used them and then done blood work knows this unequivocally. But there are so many people that say that bullshit to the point where that's what people want to believe too. They want to hear that. They want to be like, oh, it's safe? Great, I can take all these 5 different products. Now, I'm not saying that they're not effective. They're definitely effective, but you don't really know if it's safe or not because there's not enough data out there to determine one way or the other. So you're basically rolling the dice. You're basically playing roulette going, okay, let me take this and see what happens. And most people don't do blood work. Let's be honest. Very few people do blood work to assess this stuff. Certainly not after a couple of weeks of being on a compound because it's fairly expensive. And even if they do the blood work, they don't know how to interpret it. But if you do, if you take, so I mean, I think everything should be legal. People should be able to do whatever they want to do. But let's not lie about it. Let's not lie about the side effects and the likely ramifications of doing anything.
And then you got, in one of my articles on SARMs that I wrote in Applied Metabolics, I pointed out where they bought, was it 20 different SARMs online, and 50% of them had no SARMs in them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You don't even know you're not even getting what you paid for. You know?
Half of them had no SARMs. I mean, come on, you know.
The supplement industry is not even regulated, and then the SARMs are in this gray area of when any company that sells SARMs, they can't even tell you how to use it. They have to say research chemical, not for human use. It says that right on the fucking bottle. And if you ask them questions like, how do I use this? They're not going to answer those. They're like, oh, it's not for human consumption. It's for lab rats. It's like, okay, well, why would the average person be buying a product for lab rats? If this is just their legal way of getting through a loophole. So that's what's going on there. And then, like you said, that's assuming that you're actually getting what you paid for. A lot of times, you're not even getting that. So you're taking something under the parameters of, let's say it's RAD 140, and you're like, okay, I did a bunch of research on RAD 140, so here's how I should take it. Okay, that's assuming that it's actually RAD 140 in the product. A lot of times it isn't. So now you're taking some unknown chemical. Maybe you're taking a pro hormone. Maybe you're taking some fucking herb. You don't even know what you're taking.
Right. Well, also the fact of the matter is that there is any dosage scheme that they give you. You know, let's say these online purveyors of SARMs is not based on any research. In other words, it's strictly anecdotal because there is no actual there is some human research on some of them, but they're usually older, frail people that might not apply to, let's say, a young, healthy person involved in resistance training.
Well, there's Lagendrol 4033. There's that one human trial, but it was dosages that are way lower than anyone uses. Exactly. It was like 1 milligram was the highest dosage that they used. And even that had side effects, 1 milligram. Now, the average person who takes this product is taking 10 to 20 milligrams.
Yeah, think of that. And that's uncharted territory. You don't know what's going to happen when you take that.
Yeah, at least with anabolics, we have a history of data on what's going to happen. I'm not saying that those are safe. But we know what the ramifications are. And people that are experts know the safest way to use it. I'm not saying it's free of side effects, but there is enough information out there on here's the way to mitigate the side effects as much as possible.
Well, I've been in the medical journals lately. There's been for some reason, a rash of studies showing some of the SARMs that you mentioned. They're showing severe liver disease.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why people use, I think you'll agree with this, selective androgen receptor modulators is what they are. One of the reasons people use them is the notion that they're safer than oral steroids, and they're safer than most anabolic steroids. In other words, they're almost, this is the thought, they're almost at least almost as powerful, in some cases as powerful as anabolic steroids, but the chances of side effects are much less. This is a major error because the SARMs are producing the same fucking problems as oral steroids. So there's no advantage. And the oral steroids still work better. They
right.
Still work better.
Right. Like something like Anavar is safer than most of these compounds, especially at a low dosage. But the thing is that I see people with huge followings, right? Well-respected individuals in the fitness world who have written articles stating emphatically that SARMs are safe and a viable alternative to steroids. They're saying it in very clear. They're not saying may be safe, may be effective. They're saying it's safe and effective, and it's an alternative to steroids. They're saying steroids are bad, but these are good. And they're saying that unequivocally with no nuance. And these are people that people respect, that they think these are the top people in the fucking field.
What does that guy Huberman say about SARM? Did he say anything? You know?
I mean, I don't follow his information that closely. I don't think he's ever discussed SARMs. But my guess is that he would be tentative to recommend SARMs. That would be my guess. Because even though we were talking about his recommendation of Fedosia, even his recommendation of Fedosia, in my opinion, is very conservative. And I say that as a compliment in a good way. But he recommends 400 milligrams of Fedosia. The average person is taking 1,200, 1,500 milligrams. So first, if you're going to take something like that, the lowest effective dosage makes the most sense to me. And milligrams is a pretty conservative dosage where you're not likely to have a lot of the side effects that we saw in the rat studies. That's just my opinion. That's not based on any data like that.
That makes sense. You always want to use the lowest dosage possible, as long as it produces the effects you want.
With TRT, like Dr. Mark Gordon says, look, let's get, a lot of people recommend 100 milligrams every fucking week at these TRT clinics. Dr. Gordon says, let's put you on 20 milligrams a week and see how you do. You may not need more than that. Let's put you, if that's not enough, let's go to 40 milligrams. And then he has people take TRT and Clomid. So Clomid keeps your natural production up so you don't have to take as much as the TRT. So he does a lot of nuanced things. Right. He does stuff with enhancing people's brain health so that the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone gets to the testes more effectively. You know, he does a lot of really interesting things. But what he doesn't do is just have these arbitrarily recommendations for different things. Like, oh, let's put you on 100 milligrams of DHEA every day without looking at blood work, or let's put you on TRT 100 milligrams once a week. Well, first of all, why is it once a week? How about a lower dosage a couple of times a week? You know, so you have these highs and lows. But a lot of these TRT clinics, you and I could go into the same TRT clinic and they'll give us the same recommendation. They'll like, hey, Jerry, 100 milligrams a week for you. Mike, same with you. Have fun, guys. You know
what's even worse, Mike? You can go into those clinics, they'll put you on TRT even if you don't need it.
Yeah, you can have a total testosterone of 800 and free of 150, and they'll be like, yeah, let's bump it up a bit.
It won't hurt. They say
people have people associate way too many benefits with just improving testosterone. Right. So sometimes people have good testosterone levels, but they have a low sex drive and their mood is off because of some other factor. Maybe their estrogen levels are too low. Maybe their DHEA is really depleted. Maybe their pregnenolone is non-existent. Right. You know, not everything is about testosterone with men. Men think hormone optimization is improving testosterone. That's just one of many hormones you have to improve.
Right. That's true. That's true. And then there's a lot of guys are just absolutely totally afraid of any estrogen.
Yeah.
Estrogen is this evil hormone that's always bad. They don't understand estrogen provides health benefits. And for one thing, it maintains the nitric oxide system in your artery. That's estrogen is the reason why premenopausal women very rarely get heart attacks, because estrogen stimulates nitric oxide synthesis, and they have a much more efficient nitric oxide system, which keeps their blood vessels, like their arteries, more supple, which means there's less atherosclerosis, and that translates into less cardiovascular disease. So, and also a study which shocked a lot of people, they used to think that the reason why a lot of guys, as they get, let's say, middle-aged, they get fat around their middle, they thought it was because of a lack of testosterone. And it is to a certain extent, but now they know that's only part of the reason. The reason is that the estrogen, strangely enough, you know, a lot of bodybuilders think estrogen, you know, produces subcutaneous fat and holds water and this and that. There's a certain amount of truth to that. That's, you know, but the point is, estrogen is, believe it or not, a lack of estrogen stimulates fat accumulation around the middle, including visceral fat, the most dangerous fat. That even shocked me. I have to admit, when I read that, I said,
Well,
"Holy shit!"
it seems that the side effects of really low estrogen are similar to the side effects of too much estrogen.
That's it. That's exactly right.
What you said about the nitric oxide is interesting too, because if estrogen levels go too low, it's the ultimate erections killer. Now, you won't be able to get an erection to save your life if you take one of these aromatase inhibitors. Because I mean, the only way you're really going to drive estrogen too low is if you're taking an aromatase inhibitor. The average guy out there doesn't have excessively low estrogen. If anything, he has too much estrogen, right? So if you're taking like a Arimidex or one of these other things, and you drive estrogen way too low, even though your testosterone is high, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to have no sex drive and you're going to have no sex function.
Not only that, but they showed it first in women because, you know, Arimidex is actually, the original purpose was to help treat women with breast cancer. Yeah, because it inhibits the production of estrogen through the aromatase enzyme. But one of the major, most common side effects that women get, women who are being given Arimidex to treat breast cancer, the most common side effect is joint pain.
Right.
Joint pain. So men who take Arimidex, let's say they're taking TRT or they're taking steroids and they're using Arimidex to lower estrogen, they will get this joint pain and not realize it's from the estrogen going too low. They don't even know that. They have no idea where it's coming from. They think maybe I'm training too hard. It's because the estrogen's too low.
Right.
Very few people know that.
Right. And it's amazing to me how few people know that. And what's even more amazing is how many self-proclaimed hormone optimization experts don't know that.
They don't know
That's
that.
the thing. It's trendy to call yourself a hormone expert.
Right.
Now, I remember when I first started studying hormones in 2005, when I was fully active as a kettlebell instructor, nobody called themselves a hormone optimization expert. In fact, they thought I was way too pedantic about hormones. Like, oh, Mike's always talking about hormones. It's not that important. Fast forward, everybody's a fucking hormone optimization expert now. I see people saying hormone optimization expert and gut health expert. Okay, because it's like, based on what? You know, who qualified you as either one of those things? You know?
That's true. I mean, but what's surprising to me is some of these videos, they interview medical doctors who actually are involved in providing TRT, who say stupid things that are wrong. And I look at them and I said, what the fuck? This guy is supposed to be an expert, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I turned one guy off. I couldn't take it.
I went to an anti-aging doctor in Santa Monica when I lived out there. And I specifically remember him saying, the goal is to get your testosterone as high as possible and estrogen as low as possible. His word for word. That's what he fucking told me. He goes, and my testosterone wasn't even that bad then, but he was like, let's get you on some testosterone cream to improve your levels. And then he goes, and then we'll put you on a Arimidex to lower estrogen if needed, because the goal is testosterone as high as possible, estrogen as low as possible. That's what he said. And then the funny thing is, I would say things to him during some of the consults, and months later, he would repeat it back to me as if it's information he picked up on his own. He's like, yeah, there's a supplement called Myomin that's really good for estrogen control. I was like, yeah, I'm the one who told you about fucking Myomin, motherfucker. Now you're telling it back to me? Stupid shit like that. I would tell him about kettlebell training, and then they'd be like, hey, have you ever tried this thing called kettlebell training? I got Pavel's video. I was like, yeah, I gave you one of my videos, dipshit, when I first came in here. Now you're telling me about the benefits of so that kind of thing. I realized real fast that a lot of these medical doctors who claim to be anti-aging experts are not. They're total fucking quacks too. In fact, more than less are clueless as well. Now, fortunately, I know really good anti-aging doctors or hormone optimization doctors, if you want to call them that. Someone like Dr. Mark Gordon, you know, he's very reputable in my opinion. He's super knowledgeable, and he's also very open-minded. You know, he doesn't have a know-it-all type mentality. He's the kind of guy that if he were talking to you, he'd be listening to what you have to say very carefully and very clearly, and then go read your articles. So I know a few doctors like that, thank God, because I wouldn't just pick a doctor in the phone book and go for anything useful. Like these checkups, like, okay, you're gonna put a finger in my ass, and you're gonna violate me, and then try to tell me shit. It's like, you don't even know how to interpret my blood work as well as I do. You're looking at stuff that's not even a problem and saying it is, and then there's things that are problems that you're overlooking. That's the thing I see all the time.
Well, I know there's a lot of doctors who are involved in TRT who, when they give out testosterone, particularly in injection form, not necessarily the cream or the gels, but when they give somebody, let's say a man really wants to take testosterone with injection, let's say he's a bodybuilder or an older man that interested in putting on a little more muscle, they will request the injectable because the injected form will raise the testosterone higher than any other form of testosterone. That's true. But some of these doctors are aware that testosterone is partially converted, especially free testosterone, into estrogen because of the ubiquitous of the aromatase enzyme. It's all over the place. It's in muscles, it's in your brain, everywhere. So what they will do, and this kind of annoys me, they will routinely prescribe Arimidex without even checking the guy's estrogen level. They'll give him, they'll prescribe injected, let's say testosterone enanthate or cypionate, and they'll give them a prescription for Arimidex automatically. That's not good. That's not good because estrogen. It's very interesting. A couple of years ago, they all the medical texts in a man, they felt the maximum safe or let's say healthy estrogen level in men was between 30 and 40 nanograms, right?
Right.
It's been revised over the years. Now they know you can get most men can get away with levels as high as 60 to 80 and not have any estrogenic problems at all and get the benefits of estrogen. My point being that most men, this is the statement, most men on TRT do not need Arimidex, do not need anything that inhibits estrogen. You want to take Clomid or something like that, that's fine. They don't need it. And if anything, it might actually hurt them. You know what I mean? There is exceptions. Guys who tend to have a lot of body fat. When you aromatase, body fat, aromatase is especially concentrated in body fat, especially in the peripheral areas, the legs and arms. Guys with a lot of body fat tend to have much higher estrogen levels, right? They can go into 90s, 100 over. Now, for them, you want to start out, if you put them on TRT, you probably want to start out with a little course. If you give them a high sensitivity estrogen test and they show, let's say, over 190, whatever, high estrogen, you give them a little Arimidex, but not every day. A woman who has breast cancer will be prescribed 1 milligram Arimidex. That's very powerful. That knocks out 80% of estrogen. 1 milligram a day. A man who needs to have his estrogen controlled only needs a quarter of a tablet, like twice a week. That will actually, it won't bring it down all the way. It'll bring down his estrogen low enough where he doesn't have any problems. Now, I've been using a drug. I admit it. Both my grandfathers were bald by the time they were 30, and I always felt I wouldn't look good bald. So I started to get a hair loss in the back there, over here, and a dermatologist friend of mine. This was about 20 years ago. He said, "Hey Jerry," he says, "I can give you I have a couple of samples of a new drug that'll stop your hair loss, maybe even bring it back." I said, "Sure." So it turned out that the drug was actually originally called Proscar. And they repackaged it as Propecia, which is finasteride, by inhibiting what is it called? The alpha, which one? Alpha, oh God, what's it called? The enzyme that converts to
DHT, yeah. So it's
alpha
5-reductase inhibitor, basically, right?
Reductase inhibitor, yeah, exactly. It inhibits it, so you get much less. You get only it cuts down DHT quite a bit. And I used it, right? I've used it for years, and sure enough, immediately, I'm not going to tell you it grew the hair back, but I stopped before I used the finasteride. Every time you have the hair, you have this growth phase, anagen, all this and that. Every time I was in the growth loss phase, when I took a shower, there'd be tufts of hair in the drain. I was losing hair all the time. Soon as I started taking finasteride, never saw a single strand of hair again, ever. All these years, right? Now, in the intervening period, you probably heard about this, they came out with something called the finasteride syndrome, where men who took finasteride for, let's say, hair loss, were suddenly having sexual problems, impotency, low sex drive, And some of the reports, the men were saying it's so bad that even when they got off the finasteride, they still didn't get back their sex drive, and they still were impotent. And that's
I've had many people with that syndrome contact me over the years.
right. Right now, I think it does. According to the medical literature, only 8% of men who take finasteride get that. They think there's a lot of let's say neurochemicals involved. There's one called allopregnanolone, which is that's produced from DHT. It's involved with sex drive and erectile. So if it's reduced by cutting down DHT, you are going to have those problems. You know, some men get it, some men don't. Right. But the point is that, I said to myself, wait a minute, I'm taking a 1 milligram tablet. This relates to what you were saying earlier about taking the least dose. And I came across a very obscure study where they gave different doses of finasteride. They found that taking half a milligram, 0.5 milligram, worked just as well as taking 1 milligram. Now, I wasn't having any problems with sex drive. I've had problems with the erectile thing, but I think it's more related to my age because, most of the guys I know have the same problem. They've never taken finasteride. I've never taken anything like, what do they call this stuff? Viagra. I don't know if it would work for me. Maybe it would. I've never tried that stuff. But
Did you ever have DHT levels measured to see if it was depleted? Yeah.
Right on the borderline. In other words,
on the low end of the range. Yeah.
Low end. It was only 1 point above deficient. It was low, right?
Right.
But here's the point, though. I've never, ever had problems with my sex drive is still ridiculous. For a guy my age, it's almost the only word I could use. It's obscene.
Yeah, that's good and bad, right?
Yeah, my sex drive is the same at my age as it was when I was 19, when testosterone peaks in men, right? But the point being that looking at this new literature, I said, I'm going to cut the tablets in half. I still don't want to go bald if I can help it. So I started using half a milligram, and sure enough, I've been doing this now for about a year. No change. I haven't lost any more hair. All those years I was taking a milligram, that's the post-scar is 5 milligram. That's for treating prostate. It was only 1 milligram finasteride. Okay. But the point is, I didn't need that much.
Right.
I could probably take a quarter of a tablet and get away with it.
Yeah.
So because finasteride reduces DHT by 60% if you take that 1 milligram.
Oh, yeah.
That still leaves 40% of DHT.
Right.
Now, knowing that, and I said to myself, DHT is kind of important for certain things. I mean, it gives you the drive to work out and this and that. I said, what can I do to add a little bit to that 60% level that finasteride's leaving with? You know what I did? Believe it or not, this is going to make you laugh. I know the pathway, and I'm sure you do too, of DHEA. One of the pathways they found in men, the DHE tends to veer off on a DHT metabolite pathway.
Right.
I admit I did not even take a test for DHEA at that point. I started using DHEA, believe it or not, to raise DHT, which is just, it sounds crazy, but it seemed to help. You know what I mean? I never had any sex, that didn't happen to me. So I still take the half a tablet a day, so.
Well, that makes sense with DHEA. When people take DHEA and they get an increase in sex drive, it's because of that DHT pathway more than just increasing DHEA. So that makes sense too.
An interesting thing about DHEA is that when men take it, it usually takes the DHT pathway, as I said. Right. In rare instances, depending on maybe genetics or body fat composition or body composition, it might veer into the estrogen pathway in some men, right? Yeah. But in women, get this, it always increases testosterone.
Yeah. A lot of women with low testosterone, they can just take DHEA and it'll increase their DHEA and their testosterone. They don't have to take testosterone.
You know what? There's a simple reason to explain that. Because if you look at where does testosterone come from in women, they don't have testicles. Where does it come from? Well, some of it's made in the ovaries, right? And the other is made in the adrenal. They're adrenal steroids. The main adrenal steroid that women make that's converted into testosterone, this accounts for most of women's testosterone, is androstenedione. The same thing that they tried to sell us a pro-hormone. Remember andro? the same stuff. And it turns out because andro in women always increases testosterone, they have a kind of different pathway to testosterone. So if they take DHEA, which is one step above andro, you know what I mean? In other words, you have DHEA, andro, then to testosterone. The DHEA always goes right to andro to testosterone. That's why it always increases testosterone in women. As a matter of fact, half of women who take, and I warn women about this, half the women who take DHEA as, to supplement their testosterone, they get acne, even if they've never gotten it before. And we both know one of the side effects.
Acne and facial hair as well.
Yeah, a little facial hair, and they get that little mustache.
Mustache, yep.
I've spoken to women who have got acne after using DHEA, who never had acne in their lives, Mike, even as teenagers. But they got it because, as you know, the anabolic steroids, you see the bodybuilders, they get it stimulates the sebaceous gland secretions that also is acted upon by the P. acnes bacteria. Then you have acne.
I've tried testosterone cream in the past, and that was always the side effect. It increased my DHT levels too much, and then my skin got oily and started breaking out. And I'm not prone to breakouts, especially at this age. So it was definitely, I mean, there's ways to control that too, but my attitude is I'm always focused on keeping my natural production of things optimal. So I'm more measure. I think different mechanisms to improve natural production are always more appealing to me. Now, if and when those stop working, then the other options start becoming more viable. But I think way too many people are quick to replace their levels when you just really need a boost. You don't need to replace it. You're not so depleted that there's nothing to boost. Some people's levels are so low that even if you boost it by 100%, you're still not going to be in a good range. At that point, there's no point taking anything that ramps up your own production, because your own production is so low, it could go up 300% and it's still not a good range. At that point, TRT makes sense. But if you're like on the bottom end of the range, and doubling that gets into a really good range, then let's focus on ways of boosting your own production.
I agree with that philosophy, but the thing is that I used to, until a couple of years ago, and I have to admit, when I was writing for bodybuilding magazines, I wrote this all the time.
Yeah.
I used to write a statement: most men over 40 should probably get on testosterone. That was a mistake on my part. Yeah. As years went by, especially when they started this low T craze, that all men, you see the advertisements, low T, every man, need. I realized that that's not true. Every man doesn't necessarily need testosterone replacement therapy. So when men ask me now, what I tell them is, I said, you have to understand, testosterone replacement therapy is not a cyclical thing like taking anabolic steroids and getting up. It's a lifetime treatment. Don't on it until you really need it. Start out with more conservative measures. Take a testosterone boosting supplement. See if that works. Do your lab test. See if it brings up your testosterone. Or you have alternatives. You could start out with HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin, which is almost structurally identical to luteinizing hormone, which controls testosterone synthesis. I said that in many men, that's not going to give you the same gigantic level as a testosterone injection, but it'll bring it up to maybe 500, 600, which is not a bad level for most men. I said the only problem with HCG is after a while it stops working because your testes gets insensitive to it if you continue to use it all the time. I said, and then there's Clomid, they could try that. Clomid's another alternative. I said, if all these things fail, and they probably will past a certain age, let's say 65, whatever, then nothing, that's when you consider going on testosterone replacement therapy. And just recently, this is very recent, this also relates to something you said earlier, I've changed what I would recommend most men, and I'm going to write an article about this in Applied Metabolics, because I think it's very important for men who are considering TRT. I think the way to go for most men, if you can handle it, is to go subcutaneous testosterone administration, because you take smaller dosages more often, maybe two, or I don't know whether it's two, I have to check, 2 or 3 times a week at the most. It's like 50 milligrams, like you said, very small. It's right under the skin, and it actually almost exactly duplicates the physiological release of testosterone, because there's ups and downs. The problem with testosterone injections is that it peaks after 48 hours. Oh no, I'm sorry, 72 hours, and then it starts to go down. By 2 weeks, it's gone. I said, when you do this subcutaneous, you maintain, it's almost as like the cream, like the cream. They're designed, because they're a daily administration, they're designed to keep your testosterone in the midpoint range all the time.
Right.
I said, but the advantage with the sub-Q testosterone is you get a little bit more benefit of the testosterone by the sub-Q than you do with the creams. You might get a little bit higher level, let's say maybe 600-700. So for somebody that's involved in, let's say, working out, where they're conscious of testosterone, that the sub-Q would probably be a little bit better route than the dermal or topical forms of testosterone. This is just recently I came to this idea because I've had a couple of guys, and I'm going to tell you the truth, Mike. A couple of guys who actually had the sub-Q they told me they were getting nodules under the skin, it's like almost like an insect, very small needle. They were getting these little bumps under the skin, which they found very annoying. So it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
If you can't handle it and you want to use injections.
Well, I've taken peptides before, and I've gotten those bumps, but they usually go away pretty fast.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the same kind of bumps. So these are, because I've taken TB500 and BPC 157. I've taken some of the growth hormone, secretagogue peptides. And sometimes I'll inject it in the knee, just so if I have one of those bumps, it's not visible. Subcutaneous, I'm not injecting into the muscle. But like, let's say I inject at night, there might be a little bit of a bump at the injection site. By the next morning, it's gone though. I mean, it doesn't even take that long. It's usually gone within an hour or so. But it can get annoying after a while. The injections get old. Everyday injections, that gets tiring after a while.
That's another disadvantage, because even with the sub-Q, it's much smaller doses, meaning there's almost no problems with DHT or estrogen at all. It's eliminated. But it's the fact is you have to take it more often. And even though it's a little needle, some guys just don't like injecting it, and I understand that.
If you're someone suffering from low testosterone and everything that goes with it, you'll inject it in your ass every day if you have to.
Yeah.
When you start feeling the benefits, you won't care about that little injection, because it's not an intramuscular needle the way that these testosterone shots, most people go to a clinic to get it done because that needle's way too big for the average person to feel comfortable using at home. But these little insulin needles that people use for peptides, it's somewhat annoying, but when you experience the benefits, you don't really care.
I've tried those things. You can barely feel them. There's like,
once you know how to do it, it's not painful, and then you just pull the skin out, you hold it out, you inject in there, let the skin go. For the most part, I only get the bumps every once in a while. It's usually because I just didn't inject it properly.
Right.
You have a little bit of fat, you pull it out, inject it right in there, you don't feel a thing.
Right. I mean, I've had guys in the gym, 25 years old, coming up to me and want to get on testosterone therapy.
That's a big problem.
I said, wait a minute.
But on the flip side of that, you know what's scary is I've seen a lot of young guys lab work, and they have terrible testosterone levels.
That surprises me. A young black guy came up to me about 2 weeks ago, and he showed me. He happened to have his lab test with me, and he showed it to me. And I had to ask. I said, "How old are you?" He says, "I'm 25." I looked at it. He had something like 150 total testosterone.
Wow.
I said, "Buddy, you have some sort of I couldn't tell you off the bat, but there's something wrong with you." I said, "A guy your age to have a 150 total testosterone, something is wrong, either at the level of the brain or your testes. Something's not working. You got to see an endocrinologist to find out."
That's a crazy low number. I mean, I'm going to be 50 this year. My last blood test from last month. So last month, it was either January or last month. My total testosterone is 730. My free testosterone is 105 pgml, and that's where I'm taking my own testosterone booster and everything, and my lifestyle. And I also take DHEA cream too, and some of that converts to testosterone. But and so I either use that or I use Clomid. When I take Clomid, my total testosterone goes to 900. My free testosterone goes to 150, and I use a pretty conservative dosage with Clomid. Dr. Mark Gordon's protocol, which is what I follow, is 50 milligrams every third day. So it's like Monday, Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, like that. And I've always found that works really well for me, because when I tried Clomid in the past, I was taking 50 milligrams every single day, because that's the kind of bullshit you would read online. And I felt like crap after about a week. I I had basically, I basically had this feeling of shrinkage. Like I felt like I had a really weak nether region. Let's put it that way. I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
No morning erections, and I felt weak in that area, and my mood was off. So I remember Dr. Mark Gordon was talking about how he uses Clomid with a lot of his patients, and I go, oh, Clomid, that stuff's terrible. I tried that. He's like, well, how much were you taking? I was like, well, I was taking 50 milligrams every day. And he goes, that's way too much. He goes, that's way too much. He goes, try 50 milligrams every third day. So I tried it again. I still had some left over from the first time I tried it. I did that for a couple of months. I got tested, and everything was good, and I felt good too during that. So Clomid works for me. The only thing, I think the key is with any medication, you're looking for the lowest effective dosage, because every medication has side effects, including Clomid, including metformin, including all these medications that are the rave right now. You don't want to take 2 grams of metformin. If you can take 500 milligrams of metformin and have great blood sugar, that's awesome. I mean, the lowest dosage that's effective is the one that you want to be on. So with Clomid, that has side effects too. It can lower growth hormone. It can lower IGF-1 levels. It can cause mood issues if you're taking too much. So if you're taking the lowest effective dosage, you avoid all of those side effects and then get the benefits.
Well, you know what? You mentioned a newer form, clomiphene, which is actually the active form.
Yeah, the enclomiphene. I started using that recently. Yeah.
Because Clomid is actually 2 racemic. Yeah, and they found the active one actually is a clomiphene. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Right.
The other thing in Clomid really doesn't do anything. So once they discovered, I mean, the studies with Clomid, it works much better than Clomid itself, But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And what's cool about that product is you only need about 20 milligrams every third day. So now you're avoiding the side effects that come from the other part of Clomid. You're taking the part of Clomid that has all the benefits and less negatives. You're getting rid of the part that has negatives. That's what's maximizing the benefit. The funny thing is, enclomiphene is not easy to get. Very few compound. You have to go to a compound pharmacist, and they basically have to make it because it's been. I don't think it's legalized by the FDA. It hasn't been legalized. Actually, it's not legal for the purpose of increasing testosterone, because God forbid we take anything that increases testosterone in our fucking pussy ass estrogen dominant society now. Like James Cameron has said the dumbest thing ever. And I'm a big James Cameron fan. I love Aliens, and I like the Avatar movies too. A lot of his movies are some of my favorite movies. Terminator, of course. But James Cameron recently said that men have to realize that testosterone is a problem, and we should be trying to lower testosterone levels. Such a fucking stupid ass thing to say. I was like, how dumb can you be? I was like, what feminazi propagated this bullshit in your mind? And you know what? The funny thing about the whole extreme feminist movement is that it's basically been hijacked by super left-winging white women, because any minority woman who's been involved will tell you that it's extremely sexist or extremely racist towards minority women.
Right.
So these are and it's also the problem I have with a lot of these fringe organizations is they're not looking for equality. They're looking for preferential treatment. And that's what people don't want to call that's what a lot of people are afraid to say. It's like you have these different organizations where they're going, we want equality. It's like, no, what you're asking for is preferential treatment. Right. You're looking at how do we get advantages in society? And that's not equality.
Well, you know who Frank Zane is, right? 3-time Mr. Olympic.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for Frank. I knew him very well. I once lived next door to him in the next apartment years ago. So I know him pretty well. Frank's an intelligent guy. He was a math teacher, but I saw him interviewed not long ago. Frank is now 80 years old, but I saw him interviewed, and the interviewer asked him if he took testosterone, and he said no, I don't take testosterone because it causes prostate cancer. But his second statements really blew me away. He says, as a matter of fact, I take something to lower my testosterone.
Oh my God.
And I said, holy shit. Frank is 80 years old and he's purposely lowering is he out of his fucking mind?
Well, what do you think? You have high levels at that age naturally?
No, not that, but I mean, 80 years old, the man, he has sarcopenia. You can see him in the videos.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is take something to lower. There's really, you don't want to take something to lower testosterone at any age. Let's start there. You certainly don't want to take it to lower at an age where you probably don't have even close to good levels to begin with.
Right. And not only that, but he's basing it on false information. the notion that testosterone causes prostate cancer is bullshit. It was based on a 1941 study of one guy.
Person, exactly.
One guy. Yeah, the guy had low test. I think, I don't remember whether he was a eunuch or not, but you know, he had low testosterone for a long time. They gave him testosterone, and he got prostate cancer. They based that was the basis all these years of doctors thinking that testosterone. Now, why did the guy get prostate cancer? Because if it's strangely enough, if you have low testosterone, this is very important for a lot of guys. If you have low testosterone for a long time, you have changes within the prostate gland. You have an early form of prostate cancer called intraepithelial neoplasia is the medical term. Strangely enough, you know, these guys who are consistently low testosterone, if they're suddenly introduced to testosterone, it'll stimulate the existing small precancer and turn it into full cancer. See what I'm saying? So oddly enough, ironically enough, having low testosterone for an extended period is a greater risk for prostate cancer than having testosterone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's the opposite of what doctors tell their patients.
Yeah, exactly. And so few people know that it just boggles the mind. Like I said, I mean, I don't think there's anything more important for you to know about than how to optimize your own health.
Right.
Because you can't rely on other people to give you the best information. It's too important to know. Like finances are also important. You look at all these celebrities, how did they get in trouble? They trusted someone with their finances.
Yeah.
You have too much money to trust anybody with your fucking finances. I don't trust anyone with my finances now. I don't have a financial planner or work with some investment firm. You know, I use well-established firms for my savings account, like Vanguard. I don't hire some individual down the street to entrust him with my net worth or my life savings.
Right. No, that's true. Well, what you said is very true. I mean, this idea of trying to, you know, stay as natural as possible, and also if you do have to use a drug, start with the lowest dose that you can, and see how it affects you. Don't start out right away. Don't listen to these jerk offs on YouTube and all these other schmucks who don't know their ass from their elbow, and God forbid, never ever believe the steroid programs that are listed for some of these pro body. Don't even think of trying them. They're bullshit, and they will fucking kill you. They will kill you. I mean, these guys taking massive amounts of trenbolone. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Trenbolone? Trenbolone hasn't been produced by a drug company in like 30, 40 years. It's all made by underground labs. Furthermore, there's been a number of animal studies that show that it increases beta amyloid and tau proteins in the brain, which cause Alzheimer's disease. Why would you take a steroid? And it's also extremely toxic. Why would you take a steroid that could cause brain disease? Don't you really want to, you know, get Alzheimer's when you're 50 years old? Is that what you want?
It's absurd. It just boggles the mind. Yeah, it boggles the mind.
Oh my God, I can't.
And it's always people that have worked out for a year or something, not even that long, that are like hungry to take anabolics. I go, try working out hard naturally for at least 5 years before you even think about taking anything. You know, you can make so much progress, especially at a young age. You're 25 and you dedicate yourself to a really good training regimen and nutrition protocol for 5 years, you're going to make amazing progress. You don't need to add all this other bullshit on top of it. And then if you do want to take something to enhance your progress, you know, start with something that's more well-researched in terms of not having so many side effects as something like trenbolone is. It just boggles the mind that people will pick that out of all the options you could pick.
Oh.
Are you picking that one? You know,
I said this in a Generation Iron video. I mentioned this about trenbolone in the brain, and I looked at the comments afterwards. A bunch of guys are saying Brainum's full of shit. I'm making tremendous gains on trenbolone, and it's not affecting my brain at all. I'm not listening to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Listen, you dumb fuck. I didn't say it happens overnight.
Yeah, exactly. They've been out for 2 weeks. And
Alzheimer's itself doesn't happen overnight. It's a cumulative disease. It takes years. But trenbolone will speed it up. That's all I'm saying.
Like saying going out drinking one time doesn't cause liver disease. Like, no, not one time. You could go out and have the biggest bender of your life one time. It's not going to be that big of a deal. It's the accumulation over many years. That's the problem.
Exactly. That's right. But, it's frustrating. You're dealing with these, I think one of the reasons, like we were talking earlier about why I don't like being, talking to a lot of people,
Right.
is because so few people use their brain today. I mean, I mean, they're just, I mean, they call each other sheep, and they don't think things through. There's no not create. There's no thinking process.
Right.
They just follow leader. I mean, whether it's using supplements or certain training techniques, or even in politics, storming the Capitol, supporting a guy like Trump without thinking it through. I mean, I just don't have the patience for these people. I don't want to be around them, and I don't want to talk to them. I certainly am not going to try and convince them. To me, they're beyond help, because I look, my definition of an intelligent person is, let's say you and I disagree on something, right? And you say to me, hey, Jerry, what you said about liver tablets, I don't think you're right. I said, Mike, what makes you say that? I have some research here, a couple of papers. Take a look at it. It shows that what you said that liver tablets can do as far as side effects is not correct. It only applies to rats.
Yeah.
Okay, give me the papers. I'll look at the papers, and if I see that you're right, I'll come back to you and say, Mike, I stand corrected. You're right. I was wrong. In other words, you proved it to me through hard evidence that I was wrong. I will say I'm wrong. A stupid person is a person where you could show them evidence, whether it's a video or anything, or actual statements, and they'll say, no, it's not true. It's fake news. That is a fucking stupid idiot, and I have no patience for them. None.
No, I'm 100% with you. My attitude is I'm always open-minded to improving my knowledge base. So if I'm doing something and you come along and say, hey, try making these changes, you'll get better results. The last thing I'm going to do is argue with you on that. I'm not going to resist that necessarily. I'm not necessarily just going to apply it immediately, but I'm going to be like, okay, that sounds interesting. Let me look into it. I'm like, cool, let me try that. Let me see if that makes a difference. That's how you improve. I don't pretend to be the beacon of all good information on any topic. I'm happy to learn from people that can enlighten me on certain things. Like even with Clomid, I learned about enclomiphene from one of my customers, because I was talking about the benefits of Clomid. He's like, hey, have you ever looked into enclomiphene? I go, I've never even heard of that. And he sent me an article about it, and I go, wow, this looks really interesting. Let me see if I can get my hands on a legitimate source of this, because this looks like it has all the benefits of Clomid without any of the negatives, and you can take a much lower dosage too. So that's just one example.
Yeah, but you said it's your open mind. That's a part of being intelligent, an open mind, willing to listen. In other words, I might say to you, using the example, I say, hey, Mike, try this new form of rest pause, and I'll tell you why I think it would work for you. You will weigh it out. You'll try it maybe, and if it doesn't work, you discard it.
Yeah.
In other words, it didn't work for you, so you discard it. But you were open-minded enough to, at least, because I showed you some evidence that it worked, you were open-minded enough to at least give it a shot. The closed-minded, stupid person will say, nah, that doesn't work.
I think I'm open-minded with people that I think are reputable, such as yourself. So if you recommend something, I'm going to take that seriously, because it's you that's recommending it. Some jackoff who gives, some influencer on Instagram who gives terrible information, I'm not going to be open-minded to what that person has to say, because they're fucking idiots. It's like, hey, Mike, try doing weighted vest handstand push-ups on 2 chairs in your kitchen with the hot stove near you. Something like that. I might say, that doesn't sound like a good idea. I think I'll skip that one. Yeah, the hot stove is for incentive. Like, you have to make sure that you get those reps, otherwise you fall on the stove. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. I think I'll skip that one.
No, that's an important point. Selectivity is important. I should have mentioned that.
Someone like Dr. Mark Gardner, yourself, you guys recommend stuff. I take it very seriously.
And look who's doing the talking. And if they seem like they make sense and have some knowledge, but if they see the way I work, I'll be listening to somebody, right? And let's say they, like one of these doctors, like I was looking at a video where a doctor was talking about TRT, and I was listening about 20 minutes in, and everything he's saying I knew was true. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy knows his stuff. Then something really stupid, which I knew was wrong. And the chick interviewing him doesn't know anything and is shaking, agreeing with him. And you know what I did? I turned it off. I said, you know what? This guy just lost all his credibility.
When you're that clueless on something, like whenever someone talks about how soy and flax increase estrogen is going to cause bitch tits, anything they said before that I thought was credible has now lost credibility because you're so clueless that you're still propagating this nonsense. It's not true. If you research this enough, you would know it's not true. Sometimes people research it and they know it's not true, but it's a trendy thing to say, so they continue to say it. And that to me is someone who has no integrity. So my attitude is fuck off too.
Right. No, you're right. That's true. That's true. I mean, the thing is, well, I lost my train of thought. No, you know, there's a lot of bullshit being spread around, and you got to be careful who you listen to. I mean, most of the stuff is just plain.
That I feel is a daunting task for the average person. That's why I think your newsletter is so important, because it's a highly credible source of information, and you're not bought off by anybody. You're not sponsored by a supplement company. You don't have a line of products that you put out surreptitiously where no one knows it's associated with you. So you're going to go wherever the truth takes you. So if it takes you to a place where you recommend something, it's because of the data. If the truth takes you to a place where you go, you know what, everyone's talking about how great this product is, here's why it isn't, it's because that's where the data took you. So that's what I like about your stuff, is that it's unemotionally objective.
Right. And also, you'll notice, and I started doing this in my magazine, I always present two sides of the question.
Right.
I present what let's say a critique might say, and I also present what the existing facts are. In other words, I give people the full picture. Sometimes I inject my own opinion, but if I do, I label it as such. But one thing that's interesting is I've had my newsletter for 8 years. I've never raised the price. Some of these other publications have raised their price. In the meantime, as you know, everything has gone up in price. What I'm charged for the website, you know, all the little apps involved and stuff, I'm paying much more than I did 8 years ago. And, you know, I haven't raised the amount. And I sometimes toy with the idea of, if there is a way for me to accept advertisers, you know, that would allow me to keep the, you know, subscription price the same, but make up for the income that I'm losing by all these ad expenses.
I mean, me personally, as a longtime subscriber to your newsletter, I'd rather pay more. You know, so I'd rather have more money go. If you need to go from 10 to 20 bucks, you're not going to see me unsubscribe. I'll be like, okay, it's cool. Everything else is going up. I get it. Plus, I want you to make a good living too. I don't want you to live in, you know, smaller. I'd rather you get paid a little bit more. And it makes a big difference, because look, me spending another 10 bucks, that makes no difference to my lifestyle. It's not like I have to deprive myself of something like, oh no, it just went from 10 to 20 bucks. I'm not going to be able to have fun now because I'm paying for that. And most people say the same thing. But if it makes a difference for you, if thousands of people paid 20 instead of 10 bucks, that makes a big difference to you, where you can just stay on this course. So I can't speak for all of your subscribers, but me personally, I'd rather pay more than you have to subject yourself to advertising.
Well, you know, the thing is, I thought about it. I said to myself, if I took advertising, the only way I could possibly do it I'd have to really truly believe in the product and believe that it's a use, so it's not a fraud, and everything about the product is true. I would not allow, unlike magazines who took any money from anybody, they didn't give a shit
for anything.
You know. But then I thought about it. I said, you know, there's something about advertising where, I don't know, it kind of detracts with people. Creates a little bit of a credibility gap. But you know,
my philosophy is this: like I design my own supplements, I sell my own supplements. I don't pay anyone to say that they're worth taking, though. Not one person. I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, pay a couple influencers on Instagram with big followings to endorse your product, and you'll get a lot of sales." I was like, "Yeah, but they don't take the product. All the testimonials for my products are people that actually bought it and used it. I don't have any famous people who endorse my products, because I'm not going to send them a bunch of free shit for their endorsement. And they're not going to endorse it just because I send them a free bottle anyway. They're going to expect to get compensated. They're going to expect to get paid. So my philosophy is, one, I don't do any advertising. I've never done Instagram ads or Facebook ads. I've tried Google ads, which was a total waste of money. That's the other reason why I don't do any advertising. But two, I don't pay anyone to say my stuff is good either. If someone wants to say it's good, they're doing that on their own, not because they're incentivized by me in any way.
Right.
That's just my personal philosophy, because I feel that if I have a bunch of advertising on my website, I feel like it detracts from my website now. Because here you're reading this article about the benefits of DHEA. Now you're seeing all these ads on the side for different products and ways to increase your DHEA and all that, which is maybe stuff that I endorse or not endorse. Then you don't always have control over that kind of stuff. So that's just my personal philosophy on the whole thing. I think because you're so objective by supplement, I think if you, as much as I would love for you to recommend my supplements, for example, I think it would hurt your credibility to recommend anyone. So I think you've been very intelligent not to, even when you talk about whey protein, you don't say, here are the 5 brands I use. Obviously you use a brand, but you don't even mention the brand you use because you want to stay objective and not look like you're bought off by anybody. And I think that is one, you could obviously make a lot of money if you started endorsing stuff. There's no doubt about that. But I think it would take away from your credibility too, even though it's not necessarily fair, because you endorsing stuff you use, I don't feel like that makes you incredible. But but because you're endorsing anything, you don't come off as objective as you would before. So that's the conundrum there. You know?
Well, I purposely, since I started the newsletter, I purposely never mentioned product names, never, for the exact reason you're talking about. But I got to tell you, some of these videos I was talking about, there's a trend now where some of these people, I guess they're being sponsored by companies or something. Like there's a like they'll be giving information, pretty good information. Then about halfway through, they do an ad. Buy do not age supplements, and you get a 20% discount. And I got it. You know how when that happens to me, it's like going like this thing. It's like slapping me. I said, "What the fuck?" After giving me this, you're hitting me with an ad.
Right.
I know you're full of shit, and I turn it off and I never watch them again. I actually take it personal. I mean, when I do my videos, at the very end, I mention my applied metabolics only because I think it's useful. And I figure the people that are watching my videos for information, this is a source of further information. So it's not like I'm selling any particular supplement or any other company. I mean, that's not the same. These guys are selling something from another source. It's it's not their product. And for some reason, it creates for me, it's like a credibility. I find it irritating. You know what I mean? I don't trust these guys.
Well, it's like the whole reason why you're bringing this up is because of this end, right? Look, I sell a natural testosterone booster. Now, if I wrote an article on here are the 5 best ingredients for increasing testosterone, and 3 of them just happen to be in my product, it still may be good information. It still may be credible, but there's obviously an inherent bias in me writing this that is undeniable, and there's no way for me to frame it otherwise. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not a credible source of information because I sell a product, but I'm just saying that it's more powerful if someone who's not associated with it said all of the same things, because now I'm associated with it. There's a financial incentive for me to say all this stuff is good. Now now I'm honest with people. When people come to me and they go, here's my situation, do you think this will work? I'll be honest and say, no, I don't think it'll work. Or if I do think it'll work, I'll say yes. And you have a month to try it. If you don't get any benefits, let me know. You get a refund. But because this is how I make my money selling these products, there's no way for me to be 100% unbiased. No matter what I say, because there's always that financial incentive. Even if I'm honest with people, I don't try to get everybody to buy it, because I don't make all these blanket statements about the benefits. I talk in nuance. Now, I can make a lot more money if I were more of an absolutionist about this kind of thing, because that's what people want to hear. It's like, no, this is the best thing for all reasons. This is better than TRT. This is better than this. This works for everybody. That's the kind of bullshit people want to hear.
Right.
But that's not who I am. So I'm not going to be something I'm not. Like, you see these people that go into these characters when they post a clip. They go into this exaggerated version of themselves or a completely different version of themselves. I always say to people, I go, the way you see me right now talking to you, the way you see me talking on Instagram is exactly what you're going to get if you met me in person. There's consistency among all these things.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the most important thing, is as long as I'm consistent to my values, then I'm fine. But if I start doing things that I feel are inconsistent with me, like I would never be an influencer where I endorse other people's bullshit. I just wouldn't be. Like, I see all these trainers endorsing mushroom coffee. I go, mushroom coffee is garbage. We all know it's garbage. It's garbage too, but they're paying you not much. It only takes a couple $100 a month to get someone to endorse something. You don't have to spend big money. People are happy to whore themselves out for nothing. That's the reality we're in. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to pay these people to endorse my products, knowing that. I go, no, I'm not going to pay anyone to endorse it. If people want to say my products are great, they're doing that on their own, independent of me.
They have these young guys, so-called influencers on Instagram. Yeah. And I've seen them in articles. They claim that, for example, every time they make a post about a certain product, the company pays them $25,000. I find that very hard to believe because
Yeah, me too. Come on.
come in seriously. First of all, what I mean, even if a couple of people do buy the product because this guy mentioned it, you're not going to get $25,000 worth of sales because this fucker.
He's going to pay that much. Yeah.
I don't care who it is. So
Yeah.
I don't know why I see this all the time where these so-called influencers claim I make 50,000 here, 25,000, blah, blah.
Well, they're probably selling some course on how to make money on Instagram. So they're making up these bullshit numbers. Like, hey, you want to learn how I did this? Buy my course online for $10,000.
Okay.
That's what's going on there. There's always some incentivized reason. There's always some reason why they're doing it. Look, a lot of people make a lot of money on Instagram just whoring themselves out. It's usually someone with 1 million followers or more. Right. They get all kinds of endorsement deals, and people will pay them good money to make a post. I don't know about $25,000, but they'll pay them. Look, it's only worth paying someone $25,000 if bare minimum they're generating $25,000 worth of profit for whatever you're selling.
That's my point.
If every time they post you're making $25,000 of profit, sure, it's worth paying them that because that $25,000 will go beyond that at some point. But I find it hard to believe that anyone is generating that much business for someone else with one fucking post on Instagram. I find it very hard to believe. That's for sure.
Especially if they're nobodies.
That's the thing. It's not like a Kim Kardashian type person. We're talking about someone who has huge influence.
I mean, Kardashian mentioned that she was getting $40,000 for each. That I would probably believe.
That I believe. I believe that unequivocally.
Josh Jones over there with his 16-year-old with abs says it's 25,000. I say you're full of shit, buddy. You know what I mean? I don't
make up stuff. That's the world we're in now. People just make up stuff. People will go rent a Ferrari and then act like they own it. Like, here's a picture of me in front of my fucking Ferrari. Give me a break.
At Gold's Gym, when I used to train during the day, I used to, in the parking lot in front. I used to see all these cars pull up, high-end Mercedes, Lamborghinis. I mean, all these $100,000 cars. And I was standing there with a friend of mine one time. I said, where the fuck do these guys and these women get the money to afford these cars, man?
Right.
He says they don't. He says they're leased. I said,
always. All these fancy cars you see people driving around, majority of the time, they don't own those cars. It's leased.
I said, what do you mean? He says they lease them because they're trying to impress other people, to show that they're success. I said, you got to be kidding me. They're going to lease a Lamborghini just to impress somebody else?
Well, especially in Los Angeles, you can't get a date with a good-looking woman in Los Angeles without driving a nice car.
But my mindset, I couldn't even understand that because I would never think like that. I'm going to rent a fancy car to impress somebody. Who the fuck cares what they think about my car?
No.
I couldn't care less. And
who I am and what I have to offer, if that's not impressive enough, then you're not a good fit for me.
But that's my philosophy. If a woman's going to judge me by my car, she can go to hell. And actually, it happened once.
No, you told me that story about how you were going to give this lady a ride somewhere, and she saw your car.
No, I was sitting in this place in Venice where it was famous German. It's called German's Restaurant. Where all the great
I know that place.
And I sat at the counter, and this good-looking woman sitting next to me. And she notices that there's a bunch of bodybuilders in the place. And she says, how do these guys get so big? I said, well, they're bodybuilders. As a matter of fact, there's a contest tonight in downtown LA, the Mr. Los Angeles. She said, oh, I'd love to go. I said, really? I said, yeah, follow me out to my car and I'll take you. This is a true story. I'll take you up. I was driving a big old beat up Chrysler at that time, right? She follows me. I'll never forget it. We're walking towards the car. As soon as she realizes that that's my car, I bend down to get a piece of paper, Mike, and I turn, and she's already halfway up the block in the other direction. She rejected me because of my car. It actually happened to me.
That's a low value woman, not even worthy of your time. Yeah. So that's actually she's actually doing you a favor. You're not wasting time. Who wants to find that out later? You might as well. I'd rather know that from the get-go.
I agree. And believe me, it didn't bother me one bit. I actually laughed about it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Everybody has stories like that who's spent any amount of time in Los Angeles. That's for sure. I certainly have stories like that. Yeah.
Very superficial scumbags out here. It's ridiculous. I mean, I remember going up to an ATM. Did I tell you this one? Where this guy pulled up in the very high-end Mercedes, the really super expensive one, a couple of $100,000. And you know how they have those little slips that come out after you use the ATM machine? That's a redundant ATM. If you use the ATM, they got a little deposit slip that comes out. Well, he left it there, and it was right in front of me. I wasn't trying to, be snoopy, but it was right in my face. Now this guy's driving a high-end Mercedes. His bank account, Mike, had $123.
I knew where that was going.
$123, and he's driving a several $100,000 Mercedes. That's LA.
People are taking this "fake it till you make it" nonsense to a too high a level. The reality is, if you fake it, you're never going to make it. It's my retort to that thing. The thing is also, people who have a lot of money, they don't want people to know they have a lot of money. They like to keep a low profile. People I know that are loaded, you don't even know that they're loaded unless you really get to know them, because everything they do is unassuming. They dress down. They don't drive around in super fancy cars. They don't make it known where they live and things like that. They're not taking pictures of their house and posting it anywhere. They keep a low profile. It's the wannabe wealthy that try to be ostentatious.
I trained a guy, and one of the few times I actually trained somebody, an architect in the gym asked me to train this guy. I didn't know much about him. He's a tall, gray-haired guy. He used to pull up to the gym in a beat up old Cadillac. And he it was one of those guys that kind of kept to himself. One day we got to talk. I mentioned my brother was a pilot. Turned out that he loved flying. He flew his own plane, which was one hint of how much money he had.
Oh yeah.
Beat up clothes, just looked like an average old guy. And then we talk about flying, nothing else, right? Then one day he pulls up in a high-end Rolls Royce. I said, hey, what happened? What happened? Sheldon Pollock, his name was. This guy built most of the office buildings in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, I've heard that name.
Yeah, he was like super big architect and businessman. He says, well, actually, my wife drives that. I very rarely drive that car in public. I said, why? He says, because when you drive a car like that, people automatically dislike you, and they. He says it's a funny effect. He says they actually take offense that you're driving a $400,000 car, whatever it costs, and then I found out from the architect who said, he told me who he was. He was an extremely wealthy guy, but you would never know it. He never talked about money, never talked about where he lives, drove a beat up old Cadillac, just exactly what you're saying. Yeah. He kept it low, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the phonies that are ostentatious. They're the ones driving the fucking Lamborghinis and this and that. They don't have a shit. Most of them don't have a pot to piss in out here.
Really? Yeah. They just have this illusory lifestyle that they're projecting.
Yeah.
It's not even close to their reality. Not at all.
I saw a funny article just yesterday. We're talking about Tesla cars. I don't know how you feel about them, but they were comparing the Tesla Model 3, I think it's called, to one called, I think it's called the Model Y, or maybe I have that wrong.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not too familiar with the different models.
But somebody asked him the difference, and this guy's going into the difference, and he's saying, the Model Y has this and that, and it's easy to take the battery out, and it has, it looks better, and blah blah, and then he saves it to the very end. And the price of the Model 3 is $47,000, and the price of the Model Y, which he said in the article was slightly better, was $105,000. Now that's a big fucking difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
I mean, that goes from affordable to unaffordable.
Right.
How many people can afford a $105,000 car? Come on.
Not many. And just for a slight improvement, come on.
That's what he said. He said it's easy to take the battery out, and something about you can fit more people in the car. You're going to double the price for that? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
My problem with Tesla is not the car; it's the man behind it. I don't like Elon Musk. I hate his fucking guts. He's a fucking arrogant piece of shit. I don't like him at all, especially the direction he's taken now. I don't like the guy. I just don't like him personally. I think he's a nasty motherfucker. I don't like him. I don't like him at all. But like somebody pointed out, said, hey, listen, don't judge the car by the guy, who runs the company. If it's a good car, it's a good car, which is true,
Yeah, it's just whatever is important to you. If it bothers you, then it would bother you to support such a company. Some people can compartmentalize that stuff. They can separate the individual from the product. And if that's something you can do, great. Look, I feel that way about people that have been convicted of being child molesters. where that people still listen to their music and they'll try to compartmentalize that. It's like, well, the music didn't molest anybody, so I'm going to continue to support it. And I was like, you know what? You can do whatever you want, because you listening to the music or not listening to the music really has no impact on more people being harmed, you know? So but me personally, if I find out that someone does something that despicable, I don't want to support them in any way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Listening to their music is somehow me saying it's okay what they did. Now that's my personal philosophy on the whole thing. So I have a problem with that. Yeah. But what other people choose to do, how they frame it, who cares? You know, meanwhile, while people are arguing about that, there's millions of kids that are actually in human trafficking that no one's doing anything to get. So I'm more concerned about helping the kids that we can help as opposed to someone's past actions. This is the way I look at it.
No, that's a good point. I agree.
Well, man, this is great. I could talk to you forever. I mean, we've been talking for 2.5 hours. We actually been talking longer than 2.5 hours. We've been recording for 2.5 hours. We talked for almost an hour before we started recording. Sun's starting to go down, you know, starting to get dark in here. My daughter's looking at me like going, hey, what are we going to eat? You know, when are we going to go walking? So everyone, check out appliedmetabolics.com. Jerry puts out the best newsletter by far. If you're into nutrition supplements, or if you're into training information, if you're into nutrition, anti-aging, anything health related, you put out the best information. I've been a subscriber to your newsletter for probably 10 years now. So appliedmetabolics.com, support him, check out his stuff. I guarantee you, if you sign up for a month and you take the time to read some articles, you're going to go to the archives and you're going to want to continue as a subscriber. So you put out great information. And I'll end with saying something that you always say: go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. It's going to be the best friend you've ever had. I have rescue dogs here. You have a rescue dog. If you're looking for the best companion that you can get, go get a rescue dog.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So we'll end right there. Let me stop recording.